Hey guys, tonight we are going to talk about beauty, but not the kind you see on runways or in glossy magazines. We're going to explore a time and place where being too pretty was the ticket to a better life, but a one-way path to trouble. We're heading back to ancient Rome. And let's be honest, if you were a woman of the lower classes with a striking face, your story would likely be far from a fairy tale. In fact, your perceived greatest asset could very well become your heaviest chain. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment below and tell me what city you're listening from, and what time it is for you. I love seeing how far these stories travel across the globe, connecting us all in this quiet, late-night space. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first time you truly notice it, it's not in a polished bronze mirror. Your family can't afford such a luxury. No, you see it in a bucket of still water. The day is fading, casting long, soft shadows across the courtyard of your insula, the sprawling, noisy apartment block you call home. You've just hauled the water up for flights of crumbling stone stairs from the public fountain down the street, and your arms ache. You set the heavy wooden bucket down for a moment to catch your breath, and you lean over. There, on the dark, trembling surface of the water, is a face. Your face. The weak, honey gold light of the setting sun is surprisingly kind. It softens the edges of your world, and for a moment, the grime and the noise of the sub-URA district fades away. You see eyes the color of dark olives, framed by thick lashes. You see a nose that is straight and a mouth that is full. But the thing that holds your gaze is the strange symmetry of it all. Everything is just so. Even the way your dark eyebrows almost meet in the middle. A feature that some women pluck away, but which, on you, seems to create a look of serious intensity. You've heard whispers that a unibrow, a sinofrus, is a mark of profound beauty to the nobles, a strange and exotic detail that they find captivating. You just think it makes you look perpetually worried. It's just a face, the same one you've always had. But today, something is different. Today, you understand that this face is not just yours. It belongs to everyone who looks at it. The journey to the fountain was the reason. It's a chore you do every day, a mundane part of life in a city where running water is a luxury for the rich in their sprawling villas on the Palatine Hill. For you, and for the thousands crammed into these apartment buildings, life is dictated by the public fountains, the fontes. They are hubs of social life, of gossip, of commerce, and of danger. As you waited your turn, you felt the familiar weight of eyes on you. It started as a low hum of attention you've learned to ignore, but today it was a palpable force. The baker, his hands and arms white with flour, paused his loud conversation to watch you. A group of off-duty legionaries, their laughter coarse and loud, grew quiet as you passed, their eyes following you with a predatory focus. Even the women, filling their own jugs and amphorae, looked at you, but their looks were different. A mix of pity, envy, and a certain weary resentment. You are a reminder of something they've either lost or are glad to have never possessed. The man you didn't know, dressed in a finer tunic than anyone else at the fountain, made a show of tossing a small coin into the basin as you filled your bucket. He didn't say a word, just smiled a slow, deliberate smile that made your skin crawl. The coin wasn't for the gods. It was for you, a down payment, an appraisal. You grabbed your bucket and fled, water sloshing over the rim, soaking the hem of your simple woolen tunic. You didn't look back. You are a freeborn woman. Your father is a citizen, a humble Fletcher who crafts arrows in a small workshop. In theory, the law of the 12 tables protects your honor, but theory is a flimsy shield in these crowded, chaotic streets. And here lies a question that historians still debate. For a woman of your station, how much real protection did the law offer against the casual entitlement of a wealthier or more powerful man? The answer, you suspect, is very little. Your safety lies not in laws written on tablets, but in the strength of your family and, most importantly, in your ability to remain unseen. then that is becoming a problem. Now, back in the relative quiet of your family's small apartment, you stare at the reflection in the bucket. The face staring back is the source of the problem. It's a magnet for coins and fountains and for silent, appraising stares. It's a beautiful face, and for the very first time in your young life, that thought doesn't bring you a flicker of pride. It fills you with a cold, creeping dread. The water ripples, distorting your reflection into a worried stranger. Then you quickly look away, as if breaking eye contact with the image will break the spell. But it's too late. You've seen it, and you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that this face will bring you trouble. The spell is broken. You straighten up, your back protesting as you leave the distorted reflection behind. The silence you'd imagined in the golden light was just that, imagination. Now that you're listening, the true sound of home rushes back in. It's a constant, layered cacophony, the signature anthem of the insula. From the floor below, a baby is crying, a thin, relentless wail that seems to seep right through the floorboards. From the courtyard, you hear the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, irregular and insistent. Someone across the way is shouting, their words lost in the general din, but their anger is perfectly clear. Your apartment, these 2 small rooms your family rents at a price that eats up most of your father's earnings, is not a fortress. It's more like a nest precariously perched in a very, very loud tree. And then you hear them, the whispers. They come from the other side of the wall you share with Flavia's family. The walls in these buildings, a cheap mix of timber framing and plaster, are notoriously thin. Privacy is the greatest luxury in Rome, even more so than running water. And you have none of it. You can hear every argument, every cough, every late-night conversation, and they, in turn, can hear you, the poet Juvenal, a man whose work your father sometimes hears recited in the forums, famously complained that you couldn't get a wink of sleep in this city. You think he was probably understating it. Today, the voices are low. It's Flavia, a weaver, and her elderly mother, VIP Scania. They are talking about you. Did you see her coming back from the fountain? Flavia's voice is sharp, carrying easily through the plaster. Flushed like she'd been running, spilled half the water. I saw, VIP Scania replies, her voice a dry rustle. But did you see him? The one by the fountain, dressed in dyed linen, not homespun wool, looked like a man with a full purse and empty morals. There's a pause. You hold your breath, your hand still resting on the rough wood of the water bucket. You feel rooted to the spot, an unwilling eavesdropper to the dissection of your own life. She's a good girl, Flavia says, and for a moment, you feel a surge of gratitude. Quiet, hardworking. It's not her fault she was born with that face. A face like that is never an accident. VIP Sonia counters, her voice dropping lower, but no less clear. It's a sign, a marker. The gods don't give a girl eyes like that without a purpose. And it's rarely a peaceful one. Don't be so superstitious. Mother, it's not superstition. It's experience. I've lived in this city for 70 years. I've seen pretty girls come and go. The ones who survive are the ones nobody notices. The ones who are noticed. They become stories, warnings. Their words are like tiny, sharp stones flicked against the wall, each one finding its mark on your already frayed nerves. They aren't being cruel, not intentionally, in their own way. They are expressing a form of concern, the kind of fatalistic, weary wisdom common among the people of the sub-URA. But their gossip does something terrifying. It confirms your fear. It takes the formless anxiety you felt at the fountain and gives it a name, a narrative. You are no longer just you, the Fletcher's daughter. You are becoming a character in one of VIP's and I's cautionary tales. This is the reality of your world. There are no secrets in an insula. Your life is a public spectacle. Your neighbors are your joy. And this brings up a question that legal historians and classicists still argue about. In the absence of an official police force like we have today, how was order maintained in these teeming vertical neighborhoods? Some argue that a strong sense of community existed, that neighbors looked out for one another, creating a web of mutual protection. Others argue the opposite, that it was a culture of minding one's own business, or interfering in a neighbor's trouble, especially if it involved a powerful outsider, was a good way to get yourself hurt. Listening to the whispers through the wall, you feel pretty certain which side of the debate you're on. Would Flavia and VIP Sonia rush to your aid if that man with the full purse came knocking? Or would they bar their door, light a lamp to their household gods, and listen with that same mixture of pity and morbid curiosity? You suspect you know the answer. Their voices fade as someone in their apartment calls for them. The baby below has finally tired itself out. For a moment, a fragile quiet descends, but it's no longer comforting. The silence is now filled with the echo of their words. They marker, they story, they warning. The four walls of your apartment, which just an hour ago felt like a sanctuary, now feel like a stage, and you have the dreadful feeling that the audience is growing larger with every passing day. The heavy wooden door groans open and your father steps inside, bringing the smell of wood shavings, beeswax, and the city's dusty streets with him. His name is Lucius, and he is the anchor of your small world. His face is weathered, etched with the fine lines of a man who works long hours for little pay. And his hands, though calloused and strong from his work as a fletcher, are always gentle. Tonight, the lines around his eyes seem deeper. He doesn't smile as he normally does when he sees you. Instead, his gaze lands on your flushed cheeks and the damp hem of your tunic, and a flicker of something you now recognize as fear passes through his eyes. He sets down his tool bag, its contents clinking softly. Did something happen at the fountain? He asks, his voice slow and even, but you can hear the tension coil beneath the surface. You shake your head quickly, a little too quickly. No, father, just crowded. I hurried. It's a weak lie. And you both know it. He doesn't press. He knows he doesn't have to. He has seen the same things you have. He has seen the way the landlord's son, Wallace, stops talking and just stares when you walk by. HES heard the boisterous comments from the patrons of the grimy Ka Pane, a low-class tavern, on the ground floor as you navigate the narrow alley to your building's entrance. For most fathers, a beautiful daughter might be a source of pride, a symbol of good fortune, perhaps even a strategic asset for a good marriage. But your father is not most fathers, and you are not a girl from a family with a name and a dowry. For him, your beauty is a constant, humming source of anxiety. It is a responsibility he doesn't know how to manage, a treasure he has no vault to protect. In the brutal social arithmetic of Rome, your family is vulnerable. You are citizens. Yes, civis Romani. That grants you certain rights. Your person is, in theory, inviolable, but the law is a distant concept. The reality is the street, the alley, the crowded courtyard, and in that reality, a girl's honor is protected by her male relative's ability to physically defend it. Your father is a good man, but he is one man, and he is no longer young. He cannot fight off a group of drunken legionaries or the hired thugs of a wealthy man who takes an interest in his daughter. This powerlessness gnaws at him. It's a quiet, constant fear that lies in the space between his words. This is a point that social historians often stress about ancient Rome. Beyond the grand narratives of legions and emperors, life for the average person was precarious. There was no state-sponsored police force to call. Justice was often a private matter, and power, not righteousness, was usually the deciding factor. Your father knows this. He knows that his greatest treasure is also his greatest liability. He looks at you, and you can see the conflict in his eyes, the immense love, and the immense fear. He sees the woman you are becoming, and he is terrified of the world that is waiting to notice you. All he can do is offer quiet warnings. Don't linger at the market. Come home before dusk. Don't talk to strangers. They are the flimsy shields of a father who knows he cannot protect you from the one thing that makes you a target, yourself. He sighs and turns to his work. The familiar sound of him sharpening a blade is small comfort in the growing twilight. But you know that tonight, like every night, he will sleep lightly, listening for any trouble your beautiful, dangerous face might have invited to your door. The next morning, your mother asks you to go to the market, not the grand, sweeping for a ballroom where the wealthy send their slaves to buy exotic fish and expensive cuts of meat. But the smaller, chaotic neighborhood market near the 5-mile gate, she needs leeks, a bit of salted pork if the price is right, and a new clay pot because the old one finally cracked last night. Normally, this is a chore you don't mind. It's a chance to get out of the stuffy apartment, to see the vibrant, messy life of the city, to feel the pulse of Rome. But today, the thought fills you with a sense of dread. VIP Sanai's words from yesterday echo in your mind. I've seen pretty girls come and go. The ones who survive are the ones nobody notices. You pull your pala, the simple rectangular shawl worn by Roman women, up over your head, trying to cover most of your hair and shadow your face. It's a gesture of modesty, but for you, it has become a desperate attempt at camouflage. Your mother watches you, her lips a thin, worried line. She hands you a small cloth purse with a few bronze asses inside. Just get what we need and come straight back, she says, her voice tight. The unspoken part of Hercum then hangs in the air. Don't linger, don't talk to anyone, don't draw attention. Stepping out of the dark, musty stairwell of your insula and into the bright morning sun is a shock to the senses. The street is already teeming with life. Carts pulled by straining mules clatter over the uneven paving stones, their drivers shouting curses. Vendors are setting up their stalls, their voices a cacophony of competing sales pitches. The air is thick with the smells of baking bread, cheap wine, frying sausages, and the ever-present stench of the open sewers. You keep your head down, your eyes fixed on the grimy cobblestones a few feet ahead of you. You try to make yourself small, to move through the crowd like a fish through water, unnoticed, but it's no use. The path to the market is like running a gauntlet. Every few steps, you feel it, a stare that lingers too long, a whispered comment exchanged between two men as you pass, a group of youths who deliberately block your path for a moment, forcing you to squeeze past them, their smirks making your skin prickle with a mixture of fear and anger. It's not just men. The women you pass are just as observant. A group of matrons, distinguished by their finer wool and more elaborate hairstyles, eye you with disdain. To them, you are a piece of the city as grime, and your preteens is an affront, a suggestion that something so valued in their world could exist so freely and untamed in yours. They see you not as a person, but as a potential problem for their own households, a temptation for their husbands. The shopkeepers' wives, wiping their hands on their aprons, give you a look of shrewd appraisal, mixed with a hint of professional jealousy. To them, you are competition they can't afford. This journey highlights a peculiar aspect of Roman urban life, one that historians find endlessly fascinating. While the city was a marvel of engineering with its aqueducts and grand public buildings, it lacked any formal, citywide law enforcement. There was no police force to patrol the streets. Safety, especially in the poorer districts, was a precarious and largely private affair. The vigiles, often called the First Fire Brigade and police, were primarily focused on fighting fires and catching runaway slaves, not on protecting a poor girl from street harassment. Justice was something you sought yourself, through your family, your patron, or by hiring thugs if you had the money. You have none of these resources. Your only defense is to be invisible. And that's a defense that is failing you. At the market itself, the intensity of the attention only increases. The space is a swirling vortex of humanity. You navigate through piles of cabbages and onions, past cages of live chickens and slabs of bloody meat buzzing with flies. You find a stall selling leeks and wait your turn, trying to press yourself against a wooden pillar. The seller, a burly man with a florid face, gives you a leering grin as he takes your coins. A smile would be free. Girl, he says, his voice loud enough for those nearby to hear. You grab the leeks and turn away, your cheeks burning with humiliation. You feel 100 pairs of eyes on you. You're not a customer. You're part of the day's entertainment. You hurry to find a pottery stall, your heart pounding in your chest. The path you took to get here, a journey of maybe 10 minutes, has felt like an eternity. Every step has been a performance, every glance a judgment. You are the public spectacle. Your face a text that everyone feels they have the right to read and interpret. And as you finally spot a stall with cheap, reddish brown clay pots, you realize with a sinking feeling that this isn't just a bad day. This is your life now. This is the price of your reflection in the water bucket. You find the pottery stall tucked away in a less crowded corner of the market. It's run by an old woman with kind, weary eyes, and for a moment, you feel a flicker of relief. She doesn't stare. She simply gestures to her wares, a jumble of pots, bowls, and oil lamps. You quickly select a sturdy-looking cooking pot, grateful for the brief moment of normality. As you're counting out the last of your mother's coins into the woman's wrinkled palm, you feel a presence behind you. A shadow falls over the stall. "Allow me." The voice is smooth, educated, and utterly out of place in this grimy corner of the market. You turn slowly, clutching the new pot to your chest like a shield. Standing there is the man from the fountain, the one VIP Sonia had described. He is dressed immaculately in a tunic of fine, deep blue linen, a color that signals wealth, as the dye is expensive. His leather sandals are new and soft, a world away from the rough, worn-out footwear of everyone around you. He is older than you, perhaps in his late 30s, with a face that is handsome in a predatory way. Like a hawk, he is smiling that same slow, deliberate smile. He gestures to the pot you're holding, a fine choice, sturdy, practical. Then his eyes meet yours, and his smile widens slightly. But a vessel of such plainness is ill-suited to the one who holds it. Your heart is a trapped bird, fluttering frantically against your ribs. The old woman at the stall seems to shrink into herself, suddenly very busy rearranging a stack of oil lamps. She wants no part of this. The small circle of space around the three of you has gone quiet. The market's din is still there, but it feels distant, like a storm happening in another city. The man reaches into a small leather pouch at his belt and pulls out a coin. It's not a bronze, or even a brass sestertius. It's a denarius, a silver coin. Enough to buy food for your family for a week, maybe more. He doesn't offer it to you. Instead, with a flick of his wrist, he tosses it onto the stall's counter. It lands with a sharp, clear clink that seems to echo in the sudden silence. "For her pot," he says to the old woman, but his eyes never leave your face. "And for her trouble." The gesture is a thunderclap of public declaration. It's not an act of kindness. It is a transaction. He is not buying the pot. He is making a down payment on you. In the complex and oft unbrutal social language of Rome, this is a clear signal. He is marking his territory. He is demonstrating his wealth and power in a way that everyone present can understand. He is showing that he can afford not just the pot, that the girl holding it. You are frozen, unable to speak, unable to move. Your throat is tight with a mixture of terror and a hot, bitter rage. You want to scream at him, to throw the pot at his smug face, to tell him that you are a freeborn daughter of a Roman citizen and not for sale. But the words are stuck. The fear is a gag in your mouth. You know, and everyone watching knows, the vast, unbridgeable gulf between his status and yours. He is a man who can toss away a denarius on a whim. Your father has to craft 100 arrow shafts to earn that much. This kind of public display is a fascinating undark corner of Roman social dynamics. For the elite, the city was a stage on which they performed their status. Historians call it Eurgetism, the practice of wealthy individuals giving back to the community through funding buildings, games, or public feasts. But there was a darker, more personal side to it. A powerful man could also perform his status by demonstrating his power over those weaker than him. This man's gesture is a form of that performance. It's a micro display of dominance, and you are the prop. The question of whether such an act was considered honorable or thuggish is a matter of perspective, and one that classicists continue to debate. From where you're standing, it feels a lot like the latter. He doesn't wait for a thank you. He knows he won't get one, and he doesn't care. The performance is complete. He gives you one last, lingering look, a look of ownership, and then turns and melts back into the crowd as smoothly as he appeared. You stand there, trembling, the heavy clay pot still clutched in your hands. The silver coin glitters on the counter. A spot of cold, hard light. The old woman won't touch it. She looks at you with pity in her eyes. You push the few bronze coins you were holding into her hand, shove the pot into your bag, and turn to leave. You don't touch the denarius. Leaving it there is the only act of defiance you can muster. A small, pathetic gesture of resistance. As you hurry away, you can feel the weight of the crowd's eyes on your back. But now it's different. It's no longer just appraisal. It's judgment, and it's pity. You are no longer just a pretty girl. You are a girl who has been publicly claimed. You don't run, but your walk is so fast it's almost a trot. The heavy bag bumps against your hip. The new pot and the leaks j, you am blind together. You don't look back. You don't look at anyone. You navigate the crowded streets on pure instinct, your gaze fixed on the familiar landmark of a leaning cypress tree that marks the turn into your alley. Every shout, every laugh, every snippet of conversation you pass seems to be about you. You know it's not true, that the city is indifferent and its chaos is not personal, but your fear makes it feel that way. The world has shrunk to the pounding of your own heart and the burning shame on your cheeks. You finally reach the narrow, shadowed alley that leads to the entrance of your insua. It's a place that always smells faintly of mildew and refuse. Usually, you hurry through it without a thought, but today, the shadows seem deeper, more menacing. The high walls of the buildings on either side block out the sun, and the temperature drops by several degrees. It's like stepping into another world, a place where the rules of the bright, open street don't apply. And that's when it happens. As you pass a boarded-up doorway, a dark recess in the crumbling brick wall, a hand shoots out and grabs your arm. It's not a violent pull, not a yank. It's a firm, deliberate grasp, strong and inescapable. Your heart leaps into your throat, and a small, strangled gasp escapes your lips. You are pulled sideways, out of the alley's main path and into the deeper shadow of the doorway. Your back hits the rough wooden boards. The bag with the pot drops from your other hand, landing with a soft thud on the grimy ground. Two figures block your view of the alley. They are not legionaries or wealthy men. They are street toughs, the kind of men who live in the cracks of the city's economy. They are dressed in ragged, dirty tunics, their faces unshaven, their eyes holding a look of casual menace. They smell of stale wine and sweat. Well, the one holding your arm says, his teeth are yellow. Look what the market washed up. In a hurry, little bird, you try to wrench your arm free, but his grip is like iron. The other man, taller and leaner, just watches, a lazy smirk on his face. HG, thus blocking any chance of escape. Let go of me, you say, your voice a trembling whisper. It sounds pathetic, even to your own ears. Let her go, the man says, feigning surprise. He leans in closer, and you can smell the sour wine on his breath. But we just want to talk. We saw you in the market, saw the rich man give you his silver. Thought maybe you'd share your good fortune. His partner chuckles, the low, unpleasant sound. Or maybe you'd like to earn some more fortune with us. We don't have silver, but we can pay in. Experience. This is it. The abstract fear, the feeling of being watched, has now become terrifyingly concrete. This is the reality that your father worries about. The danger VIPs Anya warned of. This is not a transaction or a performance. This is raw, opportunistic violence, bred in the lawless shadows of Rome's back alleys. Historians have long debated the nature of crime in ancient Rome. Without a formal police force, how did ordinary people navigate these daily threats? Some sources, like the satirical poems of Juvenal, paint a picture of a city rife with muggings, burglaries, and assaults, a place where you were lucky to get home with your limbs and property intact. Other evidence suggests that certain neighborhoods were relatively safe due to the presence of powerful patrons and their private security. But in a place like the sub-URA, a sprawling, anonymous district, you are in a gray area. Here, your safety is entirely dependent on chance and the goodwill of strangers. And right now, your luck has run out. There are no patrons here, no vigiles, just you, two predators, and the indifferent stone walls of the alley. You open your mouth to scream, a desperate, last-ditch effort, but before you can make a sound, the man holding you tightens his grip and clamps his other hand over your mouth. The rough, grimy skin scrapes against your lips. Panic, pure and undiluted, floods your system. You struggle, kicking and twisting, but it's like fighting a rock. The other man just watches, his smirk widening. He is enjoying your terror. You are completely, utterly helpless. The sounds of the city, the distant clang of a hammer, the rumble of a cart, continue on, oblivious to the small, silent drama unfolding in the shadows. No one is coming to help you. In this moment, you are utterly alone. The face that brought you unwanted attention in the light has now brought you mortal danger in the dark. Just as the last sliver of hope begins to fade, a voice cuts through the thick, terrifying silence, adding some trouble. Gentlemen, the voice is young, arrogant, and laced with a lazy contempt. It's a voice you know, a voice you dread. The two men freeze. The hand over your mouth loosens slightly. They turn their heads toward the alley's entrance. Standing there, silhouetted against the bright street, is Omis, the landlord's son, a chias flanked by two of his friends, the fee young men who spend their days loafing around the neighborhood, living off their family's incomes. Olis is not a large man, but he carries himself with an air of unearned authority. His tunic is of better quality than yours, but it's the way he wears it, casually, sloppily. That screams privilege. The man holding you lets out a nervous chuckle. No trouble, sir. Just helping the lady. She seemed unwell. Olis takes a slow step into the alley, his friends fanning out behind him. He looks at the two toughs, then his eyes slide over to you. Still pinned against the wall, he takes in your terrified expression, your disheveled state. A flicker of something that isn't quite sympathy but more like possessive anger crosses his face. Then well, Olis repeats, his voice dripping with sarcasm. She looks perfectly well to me. What she looks is bothered by vermin. Then my father, as you know, doesn't like vermin in his properties. The reference is clear. His father owns this insula and half the other crumbling buildings in this alley. He is, in this small, grimy kingdom, the reigning authority. The two men exchange a quick, uneasy glance. They are predators, but they are not stupid. They know the hierarchy of the streets. A random girl is fair game. The son of a powerful landlord is not someone you cross. To do so would mean being barred from every tavern, kicked out of any rented room, and harassed by all assess hired heavies until you were forced to leave the district entirely. The man holding you releases your arm and takes a clumsy step back, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender. No disrespect intended. Boys, we were just leaving. See that you do. Olis says, his voice flat and dismissive. He doesn't even watch them as they practically stumble over each other in their haste to get out of the alley and disappear into the crowded street. The silence that follows is heavy and fraught. Your legs feel like water, and you slide down the wall slightly, your breath coming in ragged gasps. You are safe from them, but you are not safe. You have simply been passed from one form of danger to another. Olis turns his full attention to you. His friends hang back, smirking. You see, Olis says, stepping closer. He picks up your fallen bag and hands it to you. The pot inside makes a dull clink. It's a dangerous city. A girl like you shouldn't be wandering around alone. Thank you, you whisper, the words tasting like ash in your mouth. You just want to get away, to run up the stairs to your apartment and lock the door, but he doesn't move out of your way. He leans against the opposite wall, blocking your exit. He is enjoying his role as your savior. No need for thanks, he says, his eyes roaming over your face and down your body in a way that feels just as violating as the thug's grasp. Consider it a neighborly service. We have to look out for each other, don't we? Especially when you live under my father's roof. He puts a slight emphasis on the word under. Perhaps you could show your gratitude later. My father is out tonight. The apartment will be quiet. It's not a question. It's an invitation wrapped around a threat, an offer you can't refuse. He saved you. Now, you owe him. This is a classic example of the Roman system of patronage, twisted into its most personal and coercive form. A patron offered protection and assistance to his clients in exchange for loyalty, services, and public support. Historians still debate the extent to which this system was based on mutual respect versus pure power dynamics. But in this alley, the answer is brutally clear. Aulus has just performed a service, and he is now calling in the debt. He knows your family can't afford to anger his father. A single complaint from him could see you all evicted, thrown onto the street with no place to go. You stare at him, your mind racing. The silver coin from the rich man, the hands of the thugs, and now this. They are all points on the same terrible map, and they are all leading you to the same destination. You are trapped, not by walls or chains, but by the invisible web of power, poverty, and obligation. Your beauty has made you a target, and your powerlessness makes you a victim. You give a tiny, non-committal nod, your eyes fixed on the ground. It's all you can manage. It's not an agreement, but it's not a refusal either. It's a desperate attempt to buy time. He seems satisfied with that. He smiles, a triumphant, unpleasant expression. Good girl, he says, as if praising a dog. He finally pushes himself off the wall and gestures for you to pass. You scramble past him, clutching your bag, and flee into the dark stairwell of your home. You don't look back, but you can feel his eyes on you all the way up. The footsteps you hear on the stairs are your own, but in your mind, they sound like the prelude to the heavy, unwelcome footsteps you know will come to your door later tonight. You burst into your apartment, slamming the heavy wooden door behind you and dropping the bar into place with a loud, definitive thud. The sound echoes in the small space. Your mother looks up from her mending, her eyes wide with alarm. She sees your pale face, your trembling hands, the wild look in your eyes, and she knows instantly that something more than a crowded market has happened. You can't bring yourself to tell her the whole truth, not about the thugs in the alley, and certainly not about Aulus's veiled threat. How could you? To speak it aloud would be to make it real, to give it a weight that might crush your family. So you tell her a half-truth. You tell her about the man at the market, the one with the fine blue tunic and the silver coin. You watch as your father, who has been quietly sharpening a blade in the corner, puts down his tools. He listens to your halting story, his face growing darker with every word. When you finish, the silence in the room is thick and suffocating. It's a silence filled with a familiar, unspoken fear. That night, no one eats much of the lentil stew cooked with the leeks from the market. The new pot sits on the hearth, a dark reminder of the day's events. The usual hum of family life is gone, replaced by a tense quiet. Every sound from the courtyard below, every footstep in the stairwell, makes you jump. You wait for the heavy knock on the door, the sound of Aulus coming to collect his gratitude. But it never comes. Maybe he was just boasting to his friends. Maybe he got drunk and forgot. Or maybe. And this is the thought that chills you the most. HES just waiting. Then join the power he has over you, letting the fear simmer. A week passes. Then too, the incident in the alley fades into a scar of memory. But the tension remains. Aulus smirks at you whenever he sees you in the courtyard. A silent reminder of your debt. The rich man from the market is a ghost who you imagine seeing in every well-dressed stranger. You live in a state of constant, low-grade anxiety. Then, disaster strikes. It has nothing to do with leering men or alleyway thugs. It's something far more common and far more devastating. Your father falls ill. It starts as a cough, a familiar ailment in the damp, crowded conditions of the insula. But it doesn't go away. It deepens, settling in his chest. A fever follows, leaving him weak and shivering. Even in the stuffy heat of the apartment, he can't work. The sound of his hammer is replaced by the sound of his pained breathing. The smell of wood shavings is replaced by the smell of sickness. This is the precipice on which the Roman working poor lived their entire lives. There was no sick pay, no insurance, no social safety net. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. A single illness, a single injury, could plunge a family into ruin. Historians studying Roman society point to this as a key factor in the vast gap between the rich and the poor. For the elite, illness was an inconvenience to be treated by expensive Greek doctors. For the poor, it was often a death sentence, or at the very least, a direct path to destitution. The question of how families coped is one that can only be answered by looking at the desperate measures they were forced to take. Your mother spends what little money you have on herbs from the market and pays for a small offering at the temple of Asclepius, the god of healing. But the gods are silent, and the herbs do nothing. Your father gets weaker. The rent is due. The landlord, always his father, is not a sentimental man. He expects his money on the columns, the first of the month. No matter what, suddenly, you are drowning. Not in water, but in a sea of debt. It's a suffocating, relentless pressure. The few coins your mother earns from her mending are not enough. You sell the few small things of value you own. A bronze lamp, a heavy wool blanket your grandmother wove. It buys you a few more days, a little more bread and oil. But the debt to the landlord remains, a looming shadow that grows larger with each passing day. Your family's name, your father's citizenship, your mother's hard work, none of it matters. You are being crushed by the simple, brutal mechanics of poverty. The whispers from the neighbors are no longer just about your face. No, they are about your family's misfortune. There's pity in their tone, but also a grim sense of satisfaction. It's the story they always expected. The pretty girl's family. Brought low, you look at your father, asleep on his thin mat, his face pale and slick with sweat. You look at your mother, her face a mask of worry, as she counts and recounts the few coins she has left. The problem of your beauty, which once seemed so large, has been swallowed up by a much bigger, more immediate crisis. But you have a sinking feeling that the two problems are about to become horribly, inextricably linked. Your family needs a miracle, and in a city like Rome, for a family like yours, miracles are in short supply. All you have is a debt, and, as you are about to find out, your face is the only currency you have left to pay it. The day comes when there is nothing left to sell and no one left to borrow from. The landlord, a man with a face like a clenched fist, comes himself. He doesn't shout. He doesn't have to. He stands in the doorway of your small apartment, his presence filling the space, and speaks in a low, cold voice. He talks of contracts, of obligations, of the law. He gives you 3 days. 3 days to pay the accumulated rent, or you will be out on the street. 3 days. It might as well be 3 heartbeats. It is an impossible deadline. That afternoon, your mother sits on a low stool, her mending lying forgotten in her lap. She is not crying. Her grief is too deep for tears. It has hollowed her out, leaving only a still, quiet despair. Your father, trapped up against the wall, can only watch, his breathing shallow. The shame and helplessness in his eyes are more painful to you than any angry words could be. You are the one who is healthy. You are the one who is strong. The burden falls on you. You think of trying to find work. That what work? A girl with no skills and no connections might find a grueling job in a bakery or a laundry, but the pay would be a pittance, not nearly enough to solve a debt of this size, and it would expose you to the very dangers you've been trying to avoid. The rich man from the market flashes in your mind. The silvered in Arius. He saw you as a commodity. Perhaps that is what you have to become. The thought is a cold stone in your stomach. But as you look at your parents, at their silent, broken forms, the cold stone of fear begins to harden into a strange, desperate resolve. This is not about you anymore. It's about them, their survival. That afternoon, you make a decision that feels both like a betrayal of everything you are and the only logical step forward. You will go back to the market, not to the place where he saw you, but to the forum, where such business is done. You will try to find a broker, someone who deals in contracts. You have heard whispers of these men who operate in the shadow of the great basilicus. They are the ones who arrange for the sale of slaves, the hiring of gladiators, and the placement of indentured servants. This is a path many in ancient Rome were forced to walk. While Roman law had complex rules against a citizen selling themselves or their children into slavery outright, a loophole existed. Debt bondage. A citizen in debt could, through a legal fiction, be sold to a creditor. They wouldn't technically be a slave, service, but a nexus, a person bound by their debt. They would lose their freedom until the debt was paid, which, for many, meant forever. Historians still debate the true legal and social status of a nexus. Were they treated like slaves? Did they retain any rights? The records are murky, suggesting it was a grim, ambiguous state, entirely dependent on the whim of the master. You don't know these legal technicalities. You only know the practical reality. You have something of value, not your skills, not your strength, but your face. The thing you have cursed and tried to hide is now your only asset. It's a bitter, terrible irony. You tell your mother you are going out to look for help from a distant relative, a lie she is too weary to question. You put on your cleanest, though still threadbare, tunic. You take a moment to wash your face, to smooth your hair. You look at your reflection in the water bucket, the same bucket where this journey of awareness began. The face staring back at you is pale and frightened, but there is a new, hard light in the eyes. The girl who was afraid at stairs is gone. In her place is a girl who is about to put herself up for auction. As you step out of the apartment, you feel a strange sense of calm. The fear is still there, a cold knot in your stomach, but the panic is gone. You are no longer just a victim of circumstance. You are making a choice. It is a horrifying choice, with unthinkable consequences, but it is yours. You walk through the familiar streets, but you see them with new eyes. You are no longer just an inhabitant. You are a product, assessing your own market value. You notice the slave girls, identifiable by their simple clothing and cropped hair, hurrying on errands for their masters. You see the wealthy matrons, carried in litters, their faces powdered and serene. You are caught between these two worlds, about to trade the precarious freedom of the poor for the gilded cage of servitude. You arrive at the edge of the Forum Romanum. The sheer scale of it is overwhelming. Marble columns soar into the sky. Senators in their white togas stride by. Deep in conversation, the air hums with the energy of power and commerce. You feel small, insignificant, and completely out of place. But you don't turn back. You take a deep breath, clutching the memory of your father's labored breathing and your mother's empty eyes, and you step into the heart of the Roman world to sell yourself. The afternoon sun is warm on your skin, but you have never felt so cold. The Forum is a disorienting swirl of noise and activity. It's nothing like your neighborhood market. Here, the currency is not bronze coins and salted fish, but power, influence, and vast sums of money. Lawyers argue cases in the open air of the basilicus, their voices rising and falling in passionate rhetorical waves. Merchants from across the empire hawk their exotic wares, silks from the east, spices from Arabia, amber from the north. You feel like a small, brown sparrow that has accidentally flown into an aviary of peacocks. You don't know where to go. The men you are looking for don't have stalls or signs. They operate in the margins, in the colonnades and shadowed corners. You start to walk, trying to look purposeful, as if you belong here. You keep your head high, not out of pride, but because you remember the whispers from your neighbors. She walks with her head too high. Maybe here, in this place, that's a good thing. Maybe here. Confidence is part of the price tag. After what feels like an eternity of aimless wandering, you see him. He is leaning against a marble column near the temple of Castor and Pollux, observing the flow of people with the shrewd, patient eyes of a predator, watching a watering hole. He is nondescript, dressed in a plain gray tunic, a man designed to be overlooked. But there is an unmistakable air of business about him. He is a broker, a middleman in the city's vast human marketplace. You hesitate. Taking this next step is like stepping off a cliff. Every instinct screams at you to turn around, to run back to the familiar misery of your apartment. But then you picture your family, homeless, cast out into the brutal streets of Rome. That image is more terrifying than this man, more terrifying than the unknown future he represents. You walk towards him. He sees you coming, and his expression doesn't change, but you can feel his professional gaze sweep over you, instantly cataloging, assessing, HES, not looking at your face the way other men have. HES not looking with desire or contempt. HES looking with the cold, detached eye of a livestock reader appraising a horse. HES noting your height, your health, your age, and yes, the symmetry of your features. Can I help you, girl? He asks as you stop in front of him. His voice is flat, devoid of emotion. The words you practiced in your head desert you. You can only nod, your throat suddenly dry. He seems to understand. HES seen this 1,000 times. The desperate daughter, the frightened wife, family in debt. He asks. It's not a question, it's a diagnosis. You nod again, managing to whisper. The landlord, he grunts, a small, affirmative sound. How much? You tell him the amount. It feels like a fortune to you. But he doesn't even blink. He pushes himself off the column and gestures for you to follow him. He leads you away from the main thoroughfare, into a quieter side passage behind the Basilica Julia. Here, the roar of the forum is muted, and the business being conducted is of a more discreet nature. He stops and turns to you. You're a freeman. Yes, my father is a citizen. You say the words with a flicker of defiance, a reminder to him, and to yourself, of what you are giving up. Good, he says. That has its own market. Some prefer it. Less complicated than a true slave. No risk of a previous owner showing up to claim their property. This is a chillingly practical detail Udine ever considered. The buying and selling of humans had its own complex legal framework, and a freeborn situs on entering debt bondage was, in some ways, a clear transaction. He then proceeds to explain the terms. His voice is matter of fact, as if he were selling you a sack of grain. He would find a patron to pay off your family's debt. In exchange, you would sign a contract of nexum, binding yourself to this patron for a set number of years, or until your labor was deemed to have repaid the debt. He would take a commission, a significant portion of the initial payment. You would have no say in who the patron was or what services you would be required to perform. You would be, for all intents and purposes, property. As he speaks, you feel a profound sense of detachment, as if this is happening to someone else. This is the moment your parents made the decision for you, without even being here. Their sickness, their poverty, their landlord, all of these things have conspired to lead you to this exact point. Your own choice to come here feels less like a choice and more like the final, inevitable move in a game you were always destined to lose. This is a point where the historical narrative often feels impersonal, speaking of economic pressures and legal structures. But for you, it is deeply, terrifyingly personal. It is the moment your life splits into. The before, when you were but free, and the after, which is a vast, terrifying blank. There is a high demand for girls with your look, the broker says, his eyes flicking to your face again, especially for household service, personal attendants, companions. He uses euphemisms, but the meaning is clear. Your beauty dictates your future role. You won't be sent to the fields or the mines. You will be placed in a wealthy home, where your appearance is the primary service you will provide. Will my family be safe? You ask, your voice small. It's the only question that matters. The debt will be paid, he says, shrugging. That's the deal. What happens to them after that is their business. He has found your pressure point, your family as safety. He knows that's why you're here. He has all the power. You have none. It is a heartbreak simple negotiation. You look down at your hands. They are trembling. You clench them into fists. I agree, you say. The words hang in the air for a moment. Then, the broker nods, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. Good, wait here. I have someone in mind who is looking for exactly this kind of arrangement. A man of a very old and respected family. He turns and walks away, leaving you alone in the shadows of the basilica, a ghost in your own life story, waiting for your new owner to be summoned. The broker is gone for what feels like a lifetime but is probably only half an hour. You spend the time standing in the same spot, a statue carved from fear. You watch the slivers of life you can see at the end of the alley, a senator's litter passing by, a group of laughing children chasing a dog, and it all feels like a scene from a world you no longer belong to. You are in a liminal space, a pause between two lives, and the silence is deafening. When the broker returns, he is not alone. He is accompanied by a man who is clearly a household steward or a senior slave, not the master himself. This new man is impeccably dressed in a simple but high-quality gray tunic. He is older, with a stern, impassive face, and he assesses you with the same professional disinterest as the broker, but with an added layer of authority. He is here to inspect the merchandise. He walks a slow circle around you. He doesn't touch you, but his gaze is so intense it feels like a physical touch. He looks at your teeth, a common practice to judge health and age. He looks at your hands to see if you are accustomed to hard labor. He asks you to walk a few paces to check your gait. It is the most humiliating experience of your life, a systematic dehumanization that strips you down to your component parts. You are no longer a person. You are a collection of features to be appraised. Apparently, you pass the inspection. The steward gives a curt nod to the broker. Money discreetly changes hands. A heavy bag of coins is passed over, and the broker, with a final, indifferent glance at you, melts back into the crowds of the forum. He is done with you. His part in your story is over. Come, the steward says. It is the first word he has spoken to you. His voice is cold and commanding. He turns and begins to walk, expecting you to follow. And you do. You fall into step a few paces behind him, a new and unfamiliar position of subservience. You have no idea where you are going. You don't even know the name of the family you now belong to. You are a package being delivered to its new owner. The steward leads you away from the forum, up towards the Palatine Hill. This is the part of Rome you have only ever seen from a distance, a fairy tale land of sprawling mansions and lush gardens, perched high above the squalor of the city below. As you climb the winding stone-paved road, the air seems to get cleaner, the noise of the city fades, and the buildings become larger and more opulent. The contrast with your life in the sub-URA is so stark it makes you feel dizzy. You arrive at a set of high, imposing walls to massive wooden doors, reinforced with bronze, are guarded by a porter, a burly slave whose sole job is to control access to this world. The steward speaks a word to the porter, and the doors swing silently open. You step inside, and for a moment, you forget to breathe. You are standing in an atrium, the vast, open-air hall that forms the heart of a Roman domus, or mansion. The floor is a mosaic of intricate patterns in colored marble. A fountain splashes gently in the center of an ample UVIO. The basin designed to catch rainwater. The walls are covered in vibrant frescoes depicting scenes from mythology, gods and goddesses feasting, heroes battling monsters. The air is cool and smells of flowers and beeswax. It is a world of impossible wealth, a silent, ordered paradise. It is also your prison. The steward leads you through the atrium, your rough sandals silent on the polished floor. He takes you through a series of corridors, past rooms filled with elegant furniture, and into a smaller, more utilitarian courtyard at the back of the house. This is the service area, the domain of the household slaves. The contrast is immediate. The marble floors give way to plain stone. The vibrant frescoes are replaced by whitewashed walls. The air is filled with the sounds of work, the grinding of grain, the clatter of pots from the kitchen, the low murmur of voices. He brings you to a small, windowless room. It contains nothing but a simple straw-filled mattress on the floor and a wooden peg on the wall. This is your new home. Your name is Lyra, the steward says, his voice final. He has not asked for your real name. It doesn't matter anymore. Slaves, and those in positions like yours, were often given new names by their masters, frequently Greek ones, to signify their new status and sever their ties to their past. Lyra, the lyre, a musical instrument, something to provide pleasure. It is a beautiful name, and you hate it instantly. You are a handmaiden to the domina, he continues, referring to the lady of the house. You will do what she says, When she says it, you will be silent unless spoken to. You will be clean. You will be invisible until you are needed. Do you understand? You nod, your voice gone again. The old fear, the fear of being seen, has returned with a vengeance. But now it has a new, twisted logic. Your survival depends on a paradox. You were acquired for your beauty, but you must now make yourself invisible. You must be a beautiful object that takes up no space, that makes no sound. The steward gives you one last, dismissive look. The domina will see you in the morning. Don't make me regret this purchase. He turns and leaves, closing the door behind him and plunging the small room into near total darkness. You are left alone with your new name and your old fear. You sink down onto the thin mattress. The straw rustles beneath you. You think of your family. The debt is paid. They are safe. You cling to that thought like a piece of driftwood in a vast, cold ocean. You have succeeded. You have saved them. But in doing so, you have ceased to exist. You are Lionel. And Ly. Our story is just beginning. You don't sleep. The darkness in the small, windowless room is absolute. A stark contrast to the perpetual twilight of your old apartment, where the city-esque glow always seeped through the cracks. Here, the silence is just as profound. The ordered, wealthy world of the Damas goes to sleep, and it stays asleep. There are no crying babies, no shouting neighbors, no clanging hammers. There is only the sound of your own breathing and the frantic beating of your heart. You are awoken, or rather, your state of exhausted vigilance is interrupted by a sharp rap on the door. Its wings open, and a sliver of gray preyed on light illuminates an older slave woman. Her face is a road map of a long, hard life. She carries a simple tunic of undyed wool, a clay water pitcher, and a small piece of hard bread. Get up, she says, her voice not unkind, but weary. The domina rises with the sun. She is Cleo, the head of the female slaves, the one who will teach you the intricate rules of this new world. She shows you where to wash, in a cold basin in the corner of the service courtyard. She watches as you change into the plain tunic, the uniform of your new station. It feels coarse against your skin, a constant reminder of your lost status. Then, she leads you to meet your new mistress. You follow her through the silent, sleeping house. The frescoes on the walls seem to watch you as you pass. You feel like a ghost, haunting a place you have no right to be. Cleo stops before a heavy, curtained doorway. The domina's name is Dumedier. She whispers, her voice barely audible. Do not speak unless she speaks to you first. Do not look her in the eye. Keep your head down, and through the love of all the gods, do not fidget. She pulls back the heavy wool curtain and gestures for you to enter. The room is the most luxurious space you have ever seen. The air is thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and oils. The furniture is made of rare, dark wood, inlaid with ivory and silver. A single, tall candelabra holds a dozen beeswax candles, casting a warm, flickering light, and in the center of it all, seated before a large, polished bronze mirror, is the domina. Dumedier is not what you expected. You had imagined somewhat older, perhaps harsh and severe, but she is young, not much older than you are. She is beautiful, but it is a cultivated, artificial beauty. Her dark hair is being intricately braided by two other handmaidens. Her face is already being attended to by another, who is carefully applying a fine white powder made from lead, a dangerous but highly fashionable cosmetic. Her features are delicate, but her mouth is set in a thin, discontented line. She doesn't look at you. She watches your reflection as you enter, her eyes, dark and sharp, meeting yours in the bronze mirror. You quickly lower your gaze to the floor, your heart pounding. Cleo's warning rings in your ears. Do not look her in the eye. There is a long, tense silence, broken only by the soft click of the hairpins and the gentle scrape of the cosmetic spoon. The other slaves work with a focused, nervous energy, their movements quick and precise. So, Dumedier says finally, her voice clear and cool, "This is the one my husband bought at the forum. The bargain." She says the word bargain as if it's something distasteful, something she found on the bottom of her shoe. Her tone is not directed at you, but at the world in general. It's the voice of a woman who has everything undispleased by none of it. You remain silent, your eyes fixed on the intricate mosaic pattern of a peacock on the floor. You can feel her gaze on you, a physical weight. She is examining you, taking you apart with her eyes. Cleo, Dumedier says, still not addressing you directly. She is clean enough, I suppose, but her hands are rough. See to it they are oiled. I will not be dressed by a girl with the hands of a bricklayer. Yes, Domia, Cleo murmurs, and that the expression. Dumedier continues, her voice laced with a faint, cruel amusement. She looks like a frightened mouse. We will have to work on that. I have no use for long faces in my household. My husband provides me with enough of those. This is the first taste of your new reality. You are not a person to her. You are an accessory, like a new bracelet or a pair of earrings. You are something to be polished, adjusted, and arranged to fit her aesthetic. Your purpose is to be pleasing, and your own feelings are an inconvenience. Historians often discuss the lives of elite Roman women, their political influence through their husbands, their management of large households. But there is a darker side to this domestic power. The domina ruled her household slaves with absolute authority. For a woman who often had little power in the outside world, the domus was her kingdom, and her slaves were her subjects. The potential for cruelty, born of boredom, jealousy, and insecurity, was immense. The accounts of authors like Seneca and Pliny are filled with stories of mistresses who beat, tortured, or even killed their slaves for the slightest infraction. Dumedi, finally seems to tire of her new toy. Leave her, she says with a dismissive wave of her hand. Cleo, you will instruct her on her duties. For now, she can just stand there and learn to be decorative. Cleo gently pushes you towards a corner of the room. Behind a large screen, your job, for the rest of the morning, is to be a piece of furniture. You stand perfectly still, hands clasped, head bowed, while the complex ritual of the domina's morning toilet continues. You listen to the low whispers of the other slaves, the clink of cosmetic jars, the rustle of silk. You are inside the very heart of power and wealth, and you have never felt more insignificant. The first look from your new mistress was a look of welcome. It was a look of assessment, of ownership, and of a deep, unsettling resentment. She is beautiful, and you are beautiful, and in the tiny, confined world of her private chambers, you understand instinctively that this is not a bond. It is a battlefield. Your life shrinks to the dimensions of Dumedi as world. Your days are dictated by her whims, your movements confined to the gilded cage of the domus. Cleo, the old slave woman, becomes your reluctant teacher in a harsh and unforgiving school. The art of survival as a personal handmaiden. The first lesson is invisibility. You walk too heavily. Cleo chides you one afternoon as you cross the atrium. You are a shadow. They whisper. You should be able to cross a room without a single floorboard creaking. You are here to serve, not to be noticed. So, you learn to walk on the balls of your feet, your steps light and silent. You learn to stay close to the walls, to melt into the background, to become part of the scenery. You learn the geography of the house not by its rooms, but by its safe zones, the shadowy corridors, the alcoves behind statues, the service stairwells where the masters never tread. You learn to anticipate needs before they are voiced, to have a cup of cold wine ready before Dumedi feels thirsty, to have a fresh, all available the moment the evening air turns cool. To be a perfect servant is to be a ghost who can read minds. The second lesson is silence. Your voice, which once laughed and argued and sang lullabies to your neighbor's baby, is now locked away. You speak only when spoken to, and your answers are short, respectful, and devoid of personality. Yes, Domina. No, Domina. As you wish. Domina. Your thoughts, your opinions, your fears, they all remain behind a carefully constructed wall of silence. Your face becomes a mask, carefully neutral, betraying nothing. You remember Dumedi's comment about your frightened mouse expression, and you work diligently to erase it, to replace it with a placid blankness that is both pleasing and unthreatening. This skill, the ability to disappear in plain sight, was essential for household slaves, especially those in close proximity to their masters. The Roman elite valued privacy and order, and a slave who was too loud, too clumsy, or too present was a disruption to the carefully cultivated peace of the domus. The Roman writer Seneca the Younger mused on the ideal servant, describing someone who was loyal, efficient, and almost preternaturally quiet. For you, this isn't a philosophical ideal, it's a daily necessity. A loud footstep or an ill-timed cough could earn you a sharp rebuke or, worse, a blow from the domina. The other slaves in the household watch you with a mixture of curiosity, pity, and suspicion. You are an outsider, a strange hybrid, not a true slave born into servitude, but a freeborn girl brought low by debt. You are a nexus, a legal gray area that some of them don't quite understand. This distinction, which you once clung to as a mark of your former self, now only serves to isolate you. They see the way the domina looks at you. They see the reason you were brought into this house. They know your role is different from that of the cooks, the weavers, or the cleaners. You are an ornamental slave, purchased for your appearance, and this makes you both a target of the mistress's jealousy and a potential, albeit unwilling, rival for the master's attention. They keep their distance. Friendships in the slave quarters are complicated and often dangerous. An alliance with you could bring them under the domina's disapproving eye. It's safer to leave you alone. You learn to read the subtle currents of the household. You learn the sound of the master's footsteps versus the steward's. You learn which slaves are in favor with the domina and which are not. You learn that the cook can be bribed with a bit of leftover honey cake for an extra piece of bread, and that the stable hands tell the best gossip. But you are always on the outside, looking in. There's a strange historical debate here. Some historians argue that large slave households, or familiae, developed their own rich internal cultures with hierarchies, relationships, and even secret religious practices, creating a world parallel to that of their masters. Others contend that the constant threat of punishment and the lack of personal freedom made such deep connections impossible, fostering an environment of fear and betrayal where everyone looked out for themselves. Living it, you feel the truth is somewhere in the middle. There are moments of shared, silent understanding. A quick, sympathetic glance from Cleo when the domina is particularly cruel. A shared eye roll with another handmaiden behind Dumidia's back. But these are fleeting connections in a world where your primary goal is simply to get through the day without making a mistake. You become a master of self-effacement. You are Lyra, the silent girl with the downcast eyes and the light footsteps. You are a functional, beautiful, invisible thing, and for a while, it works. By making yourself as small and unthreatening as possible, you manage to avoid the worst of Dumidia's temper. You exist in a state of fragile peace, a quiet truce that you know, with a cold certainty in the pit of your stomach, that it cannot last. You were not brought here to be invisible. You were brought here to be seen, and sooner or later, someone was going to look too closely. The fragile peace shatters on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are always tense because that's the day Dumidia's mother, the formidable matriarch Cornelia, comes to visit. Her visits leave Dumidia's are unirritable for hours afterward. Her mood is storm cloud that darkens the entire household. On this particular Tuesday, the visit has been especially bad. You don't know the details, only that it involved a sharp argument over the betrothal of Dumidia's younger sister. After her mother leaves, Dumidia sweeps into her chambers like a fury, her face tight with anger. You and another handmaiden, a quiet girl named Thalia, are tasked with helping her change into a more comfortable afternoon tunic. The air in the room is electric with unspoken rage. Dumidia is silent, but her movements are sharp and violent. She flings a silver hairpin onto the dressing table, where it clatters loudly against a ceramic pot. Thalia flinches. You remain perfectly still, your eyes on the floor. Dumidia seats herself at her dressing table, her back rigid. Her gaze falls upon her reflection in the polished bronze mirror. She stares at herself for a long moment, her expression a mixture of dissatisfaction and self-pity. Then, her eyes shift in the mirror, past her own reflection, and land on yours. You are standing a few feet behind her, waiting, a perfect model of the invisible servant. But today, your invisibility fails you. The afternoon light from the high window is soft and flattering. It catches the curve of your cheek, the line of your jaw. In the warm, forgetting glow of the bronze, you look serene, youthful, and unburdened. You look like everything she is not feeling. It's a spark on Dwight Inder. "You," she says, her voice dangerously quiet. "Come here." You step forward, your heart beginning to pound its familiar rhythm of fear. You keep your eyes down. "Look up," she commands. Hesitantly, you lift your gaze until your eyes meet hers in the mirror. You see her face, a mask of cold fury, and you see your own, pale and frightened. The frightened mouse is back. "My mother tells me I look tired," Dumedier says, her voice a low hiss. She says the city is wearing me down. She says, "I'm losing my bloom." She spits the word out like poison. She holds her own gaze in the mirror. Then her eyes dart to your reflection again. You, on the other hand, you have bloom. A healthy, common sort of bloom. Like a wildflower, you define growing by the side of the road. The insult is wrapped in a compliment, which makes it all the more venomous. "It must be so simple," she continues, her voice rising slightly, "to have a face like that and nothing behind it. No duties, no family honor to uphold. No thoughts in your head more complicated than when you next meet Liz. That must be very restful. You don't know what to do. You can't speak. You can't look away. You are trapped by her reflection." Then, with a sudden, sharp movement, she swipes her arm across the dressing table. A silver box of cosmetic powders, a row of ivory combs, and a small, hand-held bronze mirror go flying. The combs clatter to the floor, but the mirror, a heavy, expensive object, hits the marble with a sickening crack. It doesn't shatter into 1,000 pieces like glasswood. Roman mirrors were made of polished metal, but it is ruined, a deep crack running across its surface, the polished face dented and distorted. There is a moment of shocked silence. Thalia gasps. Dumedier slowly rises from her seat. She turns, not to look at the mess she has made, but to look directly at you. Her eyes are blazing. "Look what you made me do," she whispers, her voice filled with a chilling, theatrical rage. "You clumsy, stupid girl. You distracted me. This mirror was a gift from my husband. It was priceless. It's a lie. A blatant, insane lie. You were standing 5 feet away. You didn't do anything. But in this room, her word is reality. Her truth is the only truth that matters. This is a classic, if terrifying, display of power dynamics within the Roman domus. The master or mistress was legally entitled to punish their slaves for damages to property, whether real or fabricated. A broken pot, a stained tunic, a dented mirror. These could all be pretexts for severe punishment. This is a topic that ancient sources, both legal and literary, touch upon, though there is a debate among historians about how often such arbitrary cruelty occurred. Was it a common, everyday reality, or was it an extreme behavior commented on precisely because it was shocking? For you, in this moment, the academic debate is irrelevant. The reality is bearing down on you. You will pay for this, Dumedier says, her voice dropping to a low, menacing tone. She steps closer, and for a terrifying second, you think she is going to strike you, but she doesn't. She has a more creative, more cruel punishment in mind. You will pay for it out of your own hide. She turns to the trembling Thalia. "Get the steward. Tell him the new girl has destroyed my property. Tell him she needs to be taught a lesson in carefulness." Thalia hesitates for a fraction of a second, her eyes wide with fear for you. But a single, venomous look from Dumedier sends her scurrying from the room. You are left alone with your mistress and the broken mirror. The dented metal reflects a warped, monstrous version of the world. Dumedier looks at you, a slow, triumphant smile spreading across her face. She has found a way to mar your bloom after all. She didn't break the mirror by accident. She broke it on purpose, and she broke it on you. The steward arrives, his face an impassive mask. He looks at the dented mirror on the floor. Then, that you. Then, a Dumedier, who is now artfully dabbing at her eyes with a piece of linen as if in great distress. This creature, Dumedier says, her voice trembling with manufactured sorrow, was careless. She knocked my favorite mirror from the table. It was a wedding gift from the Dominus. The steward's eyes flicker towards you for a fraction of a second. You can see in that brief glance that he doesn't believe a word of it. He is a man who understands the intricate, poisonous politics of this household better than anyone. He knows Dumedi as Mertz. He knows her theatricality. He knows this is a lie. But his job is not to be a judge. His job is to manage the household, and to keep art of that is placating the mistress. Her lie is now the official story. I see. Domina, he says, his voice flat, a serious lapse. It will be dealt with. He gestures for you to follow him. As you turn to leave, Dumedier delivers her final, cutting remark. Make sure the lesson is memorable. I want her to remember the value of my possessions. The steward leads you from the luxurious chambers back to the stark, functional world of the service quarters. He doesn't speak. The walk is a silent march of doom. You don't know what's coming, but every possibility your mind conjures is terrifying. Day beating, being locked in the dark room for days without food. He takes you not to the kitchens or the laundry, but to a small, isolated shed at the very back of the property, a place used for storing old tools and broken pottery. The air inside is musty and cool. He closes the door, and for a moment, you are in near darkness. She lies, he says. The words are not a question. They are a statement of fact. You are so shocked to hear him speak the truth that you can't respond. You just stare at his silhouette against the dim light of the door. She does this. He continues, his voice low and weary, as if HES given this speech 100 times. She finds a target. She tires of them. She breaks something. The master pays for a replacement, and I am instructed to deliver a lesson. He sighs, a sound of profound exhaustion. Today, you are the target. He is not being kind. He is being practical. He is explaining the mechanics of your world. This isn't about justice. It's a process. A transaction within the household economy of power and cruelty. The Domina expects to see a result. He says, she expects to hear that you have been punished. He picks up a thin, flexible rod from a corner of the shed, the kind used for training vines. Your blood runs cold. You brace yourself for the sting of the lash. But he doesn't move towards you. He strikes the wall of the shed, a sharp, cracking sound that echoes in the small space. He does it again and again. He is faking it. He is creating the sounds of a beating without laying a hand on you. This is a fascinating and rarely documented aspect of slavery. The small acts of collusion and resistance that could occur within the system, while masters held the power of life and death. Stewards and senior slaves who ran the daily operations of a household often had their own agendas. A good steward needed a functioning, compliant staff. A staff that was too terrified or too resentful was inefficient. Was the steward's action an act of compassion, or was it simply good management? A way to maintain order without permanently damaging a valuable asset. You, while still satisfying the mistress's whim. Historians debate the motivations behind such acts. But for you, in this moment, it feels like a miracle. After a dozen sharp cracks against the wall, he stops. The silence that follows is heavy. When you go back, he says, his voice once again turned official. You will walk as if you are in pain. You will not complain, but you will be subdued. You will show her that the lesson was learned. Do you understand? You manage to whisper. Yes. He opens the door and gestures for you to leave. As you step out into the light, blinking, you feel a strange, disorienting mix of terror and profound relief. You have been saved from the physical pain, but the psychological wound is deep. You have been caught in the crossfire of a battle that has nothing to do with you. And then, just as you are about to walk away, the true price of your punishment becomes clear. The master of the house, the Dominus, is walking through the rear garden. He is a tall, imposing man named Cassius, with a stern face that you have only ever seen from a distance. He is rarely in the house during the day. He stops when he sees you emerging from the shed, followed by the steward. He raises an eyebrow. "What is this?" he asks, his voice deep and authoritative. The steward bows his head slightly. "The new girl, Lyra, had an accident. Dominus. She damaged the Dominus mirror. A small matter of discipline." Cassius's eyes move from the steward to you. He looks at your face, at your frightened expression, and then his gaze softens slightly. There is no anger in his eyes. There is something else. Pity. Interest. "Is that so?" he says, his voice thoughtful. He takes a step closer. "A pity to mar such a lovely thing over a piece of bronze." He is talking about you, not the mirror. Drumedaeus, excitable. "See that you are more careful in the future." "Lyra," he says your name, your new name. It's the first time he has ever spoken to you directly. And in that moment, you understand the true horror of your situation. Drumedaeus' fabricated rage was not the real danger. The real danger was this. Her act of cruelty was designed to get you noticed by her husband, and it has worked perfectly. He gives you a small, almost imperceptible smile, a smile of ownership and appreciation. Before turning and continuing his walk, you stand frozen in the courtyard. You have survived the mistress's anger, but in doing so, you have attracted the master's attention. His praise, his casual dismissal of his wife's feelings, has just painted a target on your back that is 1,000 times larger than a dented mirror. Drumedaeus did not just want to punish you. She wanted to create a drama that her husband would have to notice. And now he has. You look at the steward, and, for the first time, you see a flicker of genuine pity in his cold, impassive eyes. He knows, just as you now know, that your troubles have only just begun. The household atmosphere shifts overnight. It's a subtle change. Nothing you can point to directly, but you feel it in the air, in the glances of the other slaves, in the way Cleo now avoids your eyes. The story of the broken mirror and the master's intervention has spread through the service corridors like a disease. You are no longer just the pretty new girl. You are now the pretty new girl who has caught the Dominus's eye. This doesn't make you powerful. It makes you radioactive. Drumedaeus' cruelty takes on a new, more insidious form. The overt, theatrical rage is gone, replaced by a campaign of quiet, relentless psychological warfare. She finds endless, trivial tasks for you. You are sent to fetch things from the furthest corners of the Damus, only to be told she no longer wants them. You are made to stand for hours holding a fan. You are making, while she reads or naps. She criticizes everything you do, the way you fold a tunic, the temperature of her bath water, the sound of your breathing. Her goal is no longer to punish you, but to wear you down, to grind away at your spirit until there is nothing left. Her most pointed attacks are aimed at the very thing that caused this trouble, your appearance. One morning, during her toilet, she dismisses the slave who normally does her hair. No, you are all useless today, she snaps. She turns to you. Lyra, you will do it. You have never been trained as a hairstylist. The intricate braids and curls favored by Roman noble women are a complex art form. You know this is a test you are meant to fail. Your hands tremble as you pick up the ivory comb. The other handmaidens watch. Their faces a mixture of pity and fear. You do your best, trying to replicate the simple, elegant style you've seen them create. But your fingers are clumsy, your nerves shot, the braids are uneven. A stray strand of hair falls across her forehead. Drumedaeus watches your fumbling efforts in the bronze mirror, a small, cruel smile playing on her lips. When you are finished, she looks at the result for a long moment. Then she says, loud enough for everyone in the room to hear, "It seems your only talent is having hair, not styling it." The other slaves stifle their reactions, but the humiliation hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. A few days later, she devises a new torment. Your hair is long and thick, one of your most striking features. As you are helping her dress, she stops and looks at your hair. which is simply tied back at the nape of your neck as is customary for household slaves. Your hair is unkempt, she says, her voice deceptively mild. It is untidy. It is not appropriate for a servant in a house of this stature. From now on, you will cover it. She instructs Cleo to give you a piece of drab, coarse cloth to use as a head covering. You are to wrap it tightly around your head, covering every strand of your hair. From the moment you wake until the moment you go to your lightless room to sleep, this is more than just an order. It is a calculated act of erasure. In Roman society, a woman's hair was a powerful symbol of her beauty, status, and even her morality. Wealthy women spent hours and fortunes on their hairstyles. For du métier, forcing you to hide your hair is a way of symbolically stripping you of your most feminine and attractive quality. She is trying to neutralize you, to make you plain, to undo the very thing her husband noticed. The historical significance of veiling and head coverings in Rome is complex and much debated by scholars. For respectable married women, the palla pulled over the head was a sign of modesty and fidelity. For others, specific head coverings could signify different social roles. By forcing this drab cloth on you, du métier is not just being cruel. She is engaging in a sophisticated act of social signaling. She is marking you as something lesser, something that needs to be covered and controlled. You tie the rough cloth around your head. It scratches your scalp and feels heavy and hot. When you catch a glimpse of your reflection, you barely recognize yourself. The girl in the reflection looks cowed, sexless, and plain. A small, bitter part of you is almost relieved. Maybe now the attention will stop. Maybe now the dominus won't look at you. Maybe now you can finally achieve the invisibility you crave. But you know it's not that simple. Du métier isn't doing this for your benefit. She is doing it as a message to her husband. See, the covered head says, "This thing you found so pleasing. I have hidden it. I have erased it. It belongs to me, not to you. You have become a pawn in their silent, marital war. Your body, your face, your hair, they are no longer your own. They are the battlefield. And as you go about your duties, the rough cloth a constant, irritating reminder of your status, you realize that du métier's war is not one you can win. You can only endure. The headscarf doesn't work, or rather, it works in a way that makes everything worse. Cassius, the dominus, notices it immediately. He doesn't say anything to du métier in your presence, but you see the way his lips tighten, the flicker of annoyance in his eyes when he sees you. He understands the gesture for what it is, a petty act of defiance from his wife, and instead of making you invisible to him, it seems to have the opposite effect. It makes him look at you more, as if trying to recall the face beneath the drab cloth. His attention is now tinged with a sort of proprietary sympathy, which is far more dangerous than simple desire. Du métier feels his silent disapproval, and it only fuels her resentment. Since she cannot get a reaction from her husband, she redoubles her efforts to make your life miserable. Her cruelty becomes more physical, disguised as accidents and minor corrections. The hairpin incident is the one that stays with you. It happens during the morning toilet, the daily ritual of dread. You are standing behind du métier, holding a silver tray of her various hairpins. Long, sharp implements carved from bone, ivory, and bronze. Some are purely functional. Others are ornate, topped with carved figures of gods or animals. They are beautiful little objects, but in du métier's hands, they are potential weapons. She is in a particularly foul mood. Her usual hairstyle is working on an elaborate braided creation, and du métier keeps complaining, shifting her head, and finding fault with every single pin. "No, not that one, you fool," she snaps at the trembling stylist. "It's too heavy." It pulls. She gestures impatiently towards your tray. "Give me one of the thin bronze ones." You step forward, holding the tray steady. As she reaches for a pin, her eyes meet yours in the mirror. There's a cold, calculating glint in them. Her hand closes around a particularly long, sharp pin made of polished bronze. "Your e's standing too close," she says, her voice suddenly sharp. "You're breathing on me." As she turns her head to glare at you, she accidentally jerks her hand. The sharp point of the hairpin rakes across the back of your hand, the one holding the tray. It's a swift, deliberate movement disguised as a moment of pique. A thin line of blood wells up instantly. A bright red slash against your skin. The pain is sharp and stinging. You bite your lip to keep from crying out, but you can't stop the involuntary gasp. The silver tray trembles in your grasp. Clumsy, Dumedier says, her voice laced with false sympathy. Look, you've made yourself bleed. You must learn to be more graceful. Lyra, this is a household of delicate things. She turns back to the mirror as if nothing has happened, leaving you standing there. A line of blood dripping from your hand onto the pristine mosaic floor. The other slaves in the room studiously ignore the entire event. They are experts at not seeing what they are not supposed to see. Cleo quietly hands you a cloth to stanch the bleeding. Her face grim. This type of casual violence was a dark reality for many household slaves. Roman law gave a master, and by extension, a mistress, the right of corporal punishment over their slaves. While killing a slave without cause was technically illegal under some emperors, the threshold for cause was extremely low, and lesser forms of physical abuse were common when largely unpunished. The hairpin, a common tool of the female togelte, appears in Roman literature as a symbol of this very danger. The poet Martial wrote epigrams about mistresses who would stab their handmaidens with hairpins for a poorly styled curl. Juvenal describes similar scenes of domestic tyranny. There's a historical debate about how literally to take these satirical accounts. Were they exaggerations for comedic or moral effect, or were they accurate reflections of everyday life for a handmaiden standing in Dumedia's chamber? Your hand throbbing with a pain that is far more than physical. You feel like you know the answer. The satire is only funny from a safe distance. Up close, it's just the truth. Later that day, you are sent to the kitchens on an errand. One of the older cooks, a kind woman from Gaul, sees the crude bandage on your hand. She clicks her tongue in a sound of sympathy. The she-wolf has sharp claws today, she mutters, before giving you a small piece of cheese rind she had saved. It's a tiny act of kindness, a moment of solidarity in a world designed to keep you isolated. But it's also a confirmation. Everyone knows what Dumedier is doing. The entire household is a silent audience to your private torture. They pity you, but they are also afraid of you. The mistress's displeasure is contagious, and no one wants to get too close lest they become the next target. You hide the wound under the long sleeve of your tunic, but you can't hide the fear. The hairpin was a message. It was Dumedier showing you that the headscarf was just the beginning. She can hurt you whenever she wants, in small, deniable ways that leave marks only you will remember. She can draw your blood with a tool of beauty, turning a symbol of feminine adornment into an instrument of pain, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. The small, deniable cruelties continue, a steady rhythm of torment that defines your days. But it is the nights that you truly come to fear. Your small, dark room, which once felt like a prison, has now become your only sanctuary. The moment the steward dismisses the household and you can slide the wooden bolt on your door, you feel a small, fragile sense of relief. In the darkness, you are not Lyra, the handmaiden. You can, for a few hours, be yourself again, a frightened girl, the long way from home. But you know that the bolt on your door is a meaningless gesture. It would not stop a determined intruder. It is a symbol of privacy, not a guarantee of it. One night, you are jolted from a light, uneasy sleep by a sound. A floorboard creaking in the service corridor just outside your room. It's not the familiar shuffle of Cleo checking on the younger slaves, nor the heavy tread of the baker starting his work in the pre-dawn hours. This is a slow, deliberate, stealthy footstep. You lie perfectly still on your thin mattress, your body rigid, every muscle tensed. You hold your breath, straining to listen. The footsteps stop directly outside your door. Silence. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. You stare into the impenetrable darkness, your imagination painting 1,000 terrible possibilities. Is it Dumedier come to inflict some new, nocturnal torment, Is it a thief? Is it the steward, come to deliver a message? Then you hear a soft, scratching sound at the door. The sound of the bolt being lifted from the outside. Someone has a tool, or simply the knowledge of how to jimmy the cheap lock. This is not a random intruder. This is someone who knows the house, who knows where you are. The door swings open with a low groan. A figure is silhouetted against the faint moonlight filtering in from the courtyard at the end of the hall. The figure is tall, masculine, and carries no lamp. It is Cassius, the Dominus. Panic, cold and absolute, floods your system. You are trapped. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. This small room is a dead end. He steps inside and closes the door behind him, plunging the room back into total darkness. You can't see him, but you can feel his presence. You can hear his soft, even breathing. You can smell the faint, expensive scent of the spice wine he drinks after dinner. The legal and social position of a household slave, or a nexus like you, in this situation was brutally simple. You had no rights. Roman law did not recognize the concept of rape committed by a master against his own slave. A slave's body was the property of the master, to be used as he saw fit. This is one of the most chilling and unequivocal aspects of Roman slavery. While a master might be socially scorned for excessive cruelty or debauchery, he had a near absolute legal right to the bodies of those he owned. This power dynamic is a constant theme in Roman literature, often treated casually or for comedic effect in plays. But the reality for the person on the receiving end was a life of constant vulnerability. He doesn't speak. The silence stretches on, thick with unspoken threat. You press yourself back against the cold stone wall, trying to make yourself smaller, trying to disappear into the very fabric of the building. You are no longer a person. You are pure, primal fear. He takes a step closer. You can hear the soft rustle of his woolen tunic. Lyra, he says. Your name is a soft whisper in the darkness. It is not the command of a master, but something more intimate, more terrifying. It's the voice of a man who believes he is being gentle. You can't answer. A whimper is trapped in your throat. He seems to take your silence as an invitation. He takes another step. He is so close now you could reach out and touch him. This is the moment you have been dreading since you first saw the pity in his eyes. This is the culmination of the broken mirror, the headscarf, the hairpin. Dumidia's jealousy was not just about his attention. It was about this. She knew this was the inevitable outcome. Perhaps she even intended it. Perhaps, in her own twisted way, this is her ultimate victory. To have her husband defile the very thing he found beautiful. To prove that you are nothing more than a plaything for their mutual use and abuse. Historians often ponder the complex psychology of the Roman elite household, and the ways in which slaves were used as pawns in the marital conflicts of their owners. You are living out the most brutal example of this. He reaches out a hand in the darkness. You feel it brush against your arm. The touch is light, almost tentative, but it feels like a brand. It is the touch of absolute ownership. Your carefully constructed walls of silence and invisibility have crumbled. The bolt on your door was a lie. The sanctuary of your room is a trap. In the darkness of the master's house, your beauty has led you exactly where everyone, from the gossiping neighbors in your insula to the resentful Domina, knew it would. You are completely and utterly at his mercy. Before Cassius can take another step, a sudden, frantic pounding erupts from the main courtyard. It's followed by a shout, the porter's voice, raised in alarm. Fire, fire on the Aventon. The sky is red. The spell in your small, dark room is shattered. Cassius freezes, his hand dropping from your arm. He mutters a curse under his breath, not directed at you, but at the interruption. The shouts from outside grow louder, joined by the sound of running feet and the great bronze gong in the atrium being struck. A deep, resonant alarm to wake the household. For the wealthy elite of Rome, fire was one of the few dangers that could breach the walls of their fortified mansions. The city was a tinderbox of wood framed in soul, and massive fires were a terrifyingly common occurrence. The Great Fire of 64 AD under Nero is the most famous. The large, destructive fires were a regular feature of urban life. The city as fire brigade, the vigiles, were often outmatched by the scale of the blazes. For a man like Cassius, a fire on a neighboring hill was a direct threat to his property and his world. He turns without another word and is gone, slipping out of your room and disappearing into the chaos. The moment he leaves, you collapse onto your mattress, trembling uncontrollably, your breath coming in shuddering sobs of pure, unadulterated relief. You have been saved, not by a person, but by a disaster. You don't move for a long time. You just lie there, listening to the sounds of the household mobilizing, shouts, running feet, the clang of water buckets. Eventually, Cleo yanks open your door. Get up, girl. We're forming a water line to wet the roof. The embers are traveling on the wind. You stumble out into the courtyard. The night sky to the south is glowing with a terrifying orange light. The air smells of distant smoke. The entire household, from the steward to the lowest kitchen boy, is in a state of organized panic. Slaves are running back and forth with buckets of water from the central impulvum, forming a chain to pass them up to others on the roof. No one looks at you. No one notices your tear-streaked face or your trembling hands. In the face of a greater crisis, your personal terror is insignificant. You are just another pair of hands. You find a place in the bucket line and fall into the rhythm of the work, your mind blessedly numb. The physical exertion is a relief, a way to burn off the adrenaline and fear. A few days later, the immediate danger has passed. The fire on the Aventon was contained, and the house of Cassius is safe. Life returns to its normal, tense routine, but something has changed. Cassius avoids you. He doesn't look at you, doesn't speak your name. It's as if the incident in your room never happened. You don't know if he's ashamed, or simply afraid of being caught again. You are grateful for the reprieve, but you live in constant fear that it is only temporary. Your reprieve is shattered a week later. Cassius is hosting a banquet. This is a major event in the life of the Domus, a crucial part of maintaining his social and political standing. The house is in a frenzy of preparation for days. Floors are polished, silver is burnished, and the kitchens are a whirlwind of activity as the cooks prepare an extravagant multi-course meal. On the night of the banquet, you and the other handmaidens are tasked with serving the guests in the triclinium, the formal dining room. It's a job that requires grace, silence, and complete invisibility. You are to move like a ghost, refilling wine cups, offering trays of delicacies, and then melting back into the shadows. The triclinium is a stunning sight. The guests, all powerful men from senatorial families, recline on 3 large couches arranged in a U shape. The room is lit by dozens of oil lamps, their light glinting off the guests' gold rings and the silver platters of food. The air is thick with the smell of roasted meat, exotic spices, and expensive wine. You move through the room, your eyes downcast, your head covered by the hateful scarf. You focus on your tasks, trying to block out the loud, boisterous conversations of the men, their laughter, their political arguments, but you can feel their eyes on you, even with your head covered. Even in your plain servant's tunic, you are still a novelty. You are young, and you move with a natural grace that a lifetime of servitude has not yet managed to crush. As you lean over to refill a wine cup, the guest, a portly man with a florid face, looks you up and down with a slow, appraising gaze. He doesn't say anything, but his eyes are a physical touch, greasy and unpleasant. You move to the next couch. A younger man, his hair slick with perfumed oil, whispers something to his companion as you pass. They both laugh. You can feel your cheeks burn with shame. This was a common and dark feature of Roman banquets. The slaves serving the meal were often part of the entertainment. They were expected to be beautiful and silent, objects for the guests to admire and comment upon. The line between servant and decoration was deliberately blurred. There's a constant debate among classicists about the tone of these events. Were they sophisticated social gatherings, or were they debauched displays of power and excess? The writings of authors like Petronius, in his Satyricon, suggest they could often be the latter, with the treatment of serving slaves being a key indicator of the host's character. or lack thereof. You risk a quick glance at your master, Cassius. He is reclining at the head couch, deep in conversation with the senator. But as you watch, his eyes leave his guest and sweep across the room, a host checking on his party. His gaze lands on you. He sees the portly man staring at you. He sees the young man whispering. And in his eyes, you see not anger or jealousy, but a flicker of something else. Pride. He is proud of the attention you are attracting. It reflects well on him. He shows his guests that he is a man of taste and wealth, a man who can afford not just the finest wine and food, but the most beautiful servants. In that moment, you understand a new, horrifying truth. You are not just his property, you are his trophy. And tonight, he is showing you off. The fire saved you from a private violation, only to deliver you to a public one. The banquet drags on for hours. A multi-act play of gluttony and ego. Course after course is brought out. Oysters, stuffed dormice, roasted peacock, all designed to showcase the host's immense wealth. The wine flows freely, and as the night wears on, the men's conversation grows louder. Their laughter coarser, their inhibitions dissolving in a haze of alcohol. Your role remains the same, a silent, moving part of the scenery, a ghost refilling cups that never seem to stay full. Towards the end of the evening, as the main courses are being cleared to make way for fruits and pastries, Cassius makes a gesture. It's a small, almost imperceptible nod in your direction. The steward, who has been overseeing the service from the doorway, sees it and walks silently to your side. The Dominus wishes to make a gift to his most honored guest, Senator Valeries. The steward whispers, his voice devoid of any emotion. Valeries is the portly man who had been staring at you all evening, a powerful but notoriously lecherous old politician. The steward's words don't make sense for a moment. A gift? What gift? Then the cold, horrifying realization dawns on you. He is not talking about a vase or a silver cup. He is talking about you. This was not a common practice, but it was a known one. A dark corner of Roman social customs that historians piece together from suggestive literary passages and legal texts. A host, in a grand gesture of hospitality and power, might lend a favorite slave to a guest for the night. It was the ultimate display of wealth and nonchalance, treating a human being as a party favor. Whether the slave had any say in the matter is not even a question. They were property, and their purpose was to serve the master's interests. In this case, currying favor with a powerful senator. The steward sees the terror in your eyes. He gives a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of his head, a gesture of grim resignation. There is nothing he can do. This is a direct order from the master. Your blood runs cold. The noise of the banquet fades into a dull roar in your ears. This is a new level of hell, a public handing over that is somehow even more violating than the silent, private threat in your room, to be given away, even for a night, like a piece of leftover food. But just as the steward is about to lead you towards the senator's couch, the different kind of drama unfolds. Domidii enters the triclinium. She is not supposed to be here. Respectable Roman women did not typically participate in the late night, drunken revelry of their husbands' dinner parties. They might appear at the beginning of the meal, but they would retire long before the serious drinking began. Her entrance is a shocking breach of protocol. She is dressed in a stunning tunic of deep purple silk, a color so expensive it was reserved for emperors and the highest elite. Her hair is elaborately styled, and she is wearing her finest jewelry. She is not a woman coming to chastise her husband. She is a woman coming to claim her stage. She glides into the room, a radiant, beautiful vision of aristocratic grace. The loud conversation falters. All eyes turn to her. She smiles, a brilliant, dazzling smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "My dearest husband," she says, her voice ringing with false sweetness. "Forgive my intrusion, but I was so worried you were not showing our esteemed guests the full extent of our hospitality." Cassius is clearly furious at her interruption, but he is trapped. He cannot berate his wife in front of his powerful guests. He forces a tight smile. "My dear, Your timing is unexpected. Oh, I know, she says, moving further into the room. Her eyes sweep over the guests, the food, and then they land on you. She gives a little theatrical gasp of dismay. But darling, you are having the servants offer our guests the common F, the L, Ernie, and wine on such a special occasion. She turns to you. Lyra, you are a clumsy girl. You have brought the wrong amphora. Go to the cellars and fetch the vintage from Chios, the one my father sent us. Only the best for Senator Valerie's. It is a masterful performance. In one stroke, she has reasserted her authority as mistress of the house, subtly insulted her husband's taste, and, most importantly, removed you from the room. She is not saving you out of kindness. She is saving you out of pride and jealousy. You are her property to torment, not her husband's to give away. She is marking her territory in the most public way possible. The steward gives you a sharp, urgent nod. You bow your head and practically flee from the triclini hum, your heart pounding with a strange, dizzying mixture of terror and disbelief. As you hurry down the corridor towards the wine cellars, you hear Domidius Clare, musical laughter from the dining room. She has won this round. She has humiliated her husband and reclaimed her palm. You have been saved from the senator, but you have been plunged even deeper into the toxic, deadly game between your master and mistress. You stumble into the cool, dark cellar, leaning against the stone wall to catch your breath. You are trembling, not just from fear, but from the whiplash of the last few minutes. You were a gift, then you were a clumsy servant. You are whatever they say you are. Your identity is a story they write and rewrite at their whim. They knew. Chilling thought enters your mind. The gift Cassius gave Medea this morning. A stunning new necklace of golden pearls. You saw her wearing it tonight. Was that the peace offering, or was it a payment? A payment for her silence, for her complicity. The possibility that your mistress is not just your tormentor, but a paid participant in your abuse, is a thought too dark to fully comprehend. You are not just caught between them. You are the currency of their corrupt, broken marriage. The aftermath of the banquet is a cold war. The air in the domus is thick with unspoken animosity between Cassius and Medea. They barely speak to each other. Their conflict simmers beneath the surface of the household's daily routines, and you are the epicenter of the silent earthquake. Cassius continues to ignore you, his anger at his wife's public humiliation manifesting as a complete erasure of your presence. Medea, having won the public battle, now seems to have tired of the game. Hurt or meant lesson, that out of mercy, that out of boredom, she has made her point. For now, you exist in a strange, tense limbo, a state of constant vigilance, waiting for the next crisis. You feel a bone-deep weariness, a profound exhaustion of the spirit. The girl who arrived at this house full of fear has been replaced by someone hollowed out, someone who has seen the absolute depths of her own powerlessness. One afternoon, Medea is preparing to visit the public baths with a group of her aristocratic friends. This is an important social ritual, a place to see and be seen, to exchange gossip and forge alliances. It requires an entourage of slaves to carry oils, towels, and changes of clothing. As you are helping her select which jeweled sandals to wear, she turns to you, a thoughtful, calculating look on her face. You will not be coming with me today. Lyra, she says. You feel a surge of relief. A few hours free from her presence feels like a vacation. But then she continues, I have a different task for you. She lowers her voice, leaning in conspiratorially. It is the first time she has ever spoken to you in a tone that was a command or an insult. It is far more unnerving. My husband has been distant. I believe he is angry with me. I wish to make a peace offering. She gestures to a small, sealed scroll on her dressing table. This is a message for him. He is at his business office near the forum. I want you to deliver it, personally. A cold knot of dread forms in your stomach. To leave the relative safety of the domus. To go out into the city alone. To seek out the very man you have been desperately trying to avoid. It's a terrifying prospect. But Domina, you began. Your voice a mere whisper. The steward usually sends one of the messenger boys. The messenger boys are oafs. She cuts you off, her voice sharp again. This is a delicate matter. It requires a personal touch. Her eyes gleam with a strange, feverish light. I want him to be reminded of his duties to his wife, and I want you to be the one to remind him. You understand then? This is not a peace offering. This is a provocation. She is deliberately sending you to him. She is throwing you back into the fire. Why? Is she trying to spark another confrontation? Is she testing his loyalty? Or is it something darker? The final, twisted way of getting rid of you. If something were to happen to you outside the house, who would ever know the truth? The question of a mistress's complicity in her husband's affairs with slaves is a murky area for historians. While jealousy and cruelty work common, some sources hint at more complex arrangements. A wife might tolerate or even facilitate such encounters to keep her husband from seeking companionship outside the home with courtesans, which would be far more expensive and socially damaging. Was Dumidi-as act one of desperation, a calculated move to control her husband's behavior, even at your expense? Or was it simply the act of a bored, cruel woman pushing her pawn into a final, catastrophic move? She presses the scroll into your hand. Go now, and do not fail me. There is no choice. You take the scroll. Cleo, who has been watching the exchange with a grim, knowing expression, gives you a simple shawl to cover your head and tunic. It is a thin disguise, but it is all the protection she can offer. As you walk towards the great bronze doors of the atrium, you feel a sense of finality. You are being sent on a mission from which you might not return, at least not in the same state. You are being delivered. Once again, as a message, the porter swings the heavy doors open, and you step out into the bright, chaotic streets of Rome. After months inside the silent, ordered world of the Damis, the noise and the smells of the city are a sensory assault. For a brief, insane moment, you think about running, just disappearing into the anonymous crowds, trying to make your way back to the sub-URA, back to your old life, but you know it's impossible. You are a branded woman. You belong to the house of Cassius. If you ran, you would be hunted down by slave catchers. The punishment for a runaway, even a dead slave, was severe. And what would you return to? Your family is gone, your apartment occupied by strangers. There is no home to run to, so you turn in the direction of the forum. You walk with the purposeful stride of a servant on an errand, but inside, you are a condemned prisoner walking to your own execution. The scroll in your hand feels as heavy as a lead weight. It is a love letter written in the language of hate, and you are the ink. The walk to the forum is a journey through a half-forgotten life. You pass the public fountains where women like your mother still gather. Their gospel language you no longer speak. You see children playing with knuckle bones in the dusty streets, their freedom a painful reminder of your own lost childhood. The city that was once your entire world now seems like a foreign country. You are a ghost moving through your own past. You find the building where Cassius conducts his business, a modest office tucked away in a side street, far from the grandeur of his home on the Palatine. You hesitate at the door, your heart pounding. Your instructions were to deliver the scroll personally. Every instinct screams at you to just leave it with the clerk at the front desk and flee. But you remember the look in Dumidia's eyes. Failure is not an option. You give your name, your new name, Lyra, to the clerk, a harried-looking man who eyes your simple tunic with disdain. I have a message for the Dominus from the Domina. You say, your voice barely a whisper. He looks surprised that Dumidia would use you as a messenger, but he disappears into a back room. He returns a moment later. The master will see you. He leads you into a small, private office. It is a purely functional space, filled with scrolls, wax tablets, and an abacus. Cassius is seated behind a large wooden desk. He looks up as you enter, and his expression is not one of anger or desire, but of weary surprise. Lyra, he says, his voice flat. What is this? My wife has you running errands now. You walk forward and place the scroll on his desk without a word. Your hand is trembling. He breaks the seal and unrolls the parchment. As he reads, his expression shifts from surprise to a dark, simmering anger. His knuckles turn white as he grips the edges of the scroll. You don't know what Dumidier wrote. Words of love, of accusation, of threat, but whatever it is, it has had a profound effect. He finishes reading and slowly rolls the scroll back up. He looks at you, and his eyes are cold and hard. This is my wife's idea of a joke, he says, his voice low and dangerous, to send you, to wave you in my face. A reminder of her little victory at the banquet. He stands up and walks around the desk until he is standing directly in front of you. You force yourself to stand your ground, to not shrink away. She thinks she can control me, he says, more to himself than to you. She thinks she can use you as a weapon against me. He looks you up and down, and for the first time, his gaze holds no trace of desire. It is pure, cold calculation. He is seeing you not as a woman, but as a piece on a game board. A piece his wife has just tried to move. Well, he says softly, you can play at that game. He turns and walks to the door of the office. He calls out to the clerk, "Get me a runner. I need a message sent to the slave market, to the broker Lentulus." Lentulus, the name hits you like a physical blow. It's the name of the nondescript man who sold you in the forum. Cassius turns back to you, the cruel, triumphant smile on his face. My wife wants to play games with her property. Fine, but she seems to have forgotten who that property truly belongs to. I think it's time for a change of scenery. I have a friend in Alexandria who has been looking for a new handmaiden. He has a taste for exotic imports. The threat is clear. He is going to sell you, not just to another house in Rome, but to another country, another continent. He will ship you across the sea like a piece of cargo, sending you so far away that Dumidier can never use you as a weapon against him again. You will be utterly alone, in a foreign land, with no hope of ever seeing your home again. This is the ultimate act of power. He is not just punishing his wife, he is erasing you. This was the terrifying reality for a slave in the Roman world. They could be sold and resold at the whim of their master, shipped across the vast expanse of the empire with no more consideration than a sack of grain. Families were broken apart, and individuals were torn from everything they had ever known. The slave markets in great port cities like Alexandria, Carthage, and Ephesus were massive enterprises, dealing in human lives from every corner of the known world. The question of how slaves coped with this constant precarity and trauma is one that haunts the study of Roman history, with personal accounts being tragically rare. You stare at him, speechless. The finality of his words is absolute. You have survived the mistress's jealousy, the master's lust, the public humiliation of the banquet. But you will not survive this. This is the end of your story in Rome. He sees the look of utter despair on your face, and it seems to please him. He has found a way to win his war with his wife, and you are the collateral damage. Don't look so sad, Lyra, he says, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Alexandria is a beautiful city, the jewel of the Nile. You should consider it a promotion. He turns back to his desk, dismissing you. Your fate has been sealed. The game between master and mistress is over, and you have lost. The next few days are a blur of numb, silent dread. You are a ghost in the house, going through the motions of your duties while waiting for the axe to fall. The other slaves know something has happened. The air is thick with rumor and speculation. They watch you with a mixture of pity and a certain grim relief that they are not you. Dumidier is incandescent with a silent, cold fury. She knows she has overplayed her hand. Her husband's decision to sell you is a slap in the face, a public declaration that she has no control. She has lost her pawn and lost the game. She doesn't speak to you, doesn't even look at you. In her eyes, you no longer exist. You are already gone. One evening, Cleo finds you in the small, dark room that has been your home. She carries a small bundle. She doesn't say anything, just places it on your mattress. Inside is a piece of hard cheese, a small water skin, and a pair of sturdy, used sandals. It's a pathetic offering, but in the context of your world, It is an act of profound kindness and solidarity. The ship leaves from Ostia at dawn, she says, her voice slow and rough with an emotion she rarely shows. They say the journey to Alexandria is long. The sea is unpredictable. She looks at you, and her weary, hardened face softens for a moment. You were a good girl, she says, too good for this place. She hesitates, then adds, and too pretty. It's a final, sad acknowledgement of the curse that has defined your story. She turns and leaves before you can thank her. That night, you don't sleep. You just sit on your mattress, clutching the small bundle from Cleo. You think about your family. You wonder if they are safe, if they are healthy. You hope that the price you paid for their safety was worth it. You will never know. Before dawn, the steward comes for you. He leads you through the sleeping house one last time. The frescoes on the walls, the marble floors, the splashing fountain. It all looks like a dream you are waking from. He takes you not to the front gates, but to a small service entrance at the back of the property. The covered cart is waiting in the alley. You are handed over to two grim-faced men, agents of the slave broker Lentils. You are no longer a person of the House of Cassius. You are once again just cargo. They usher you into the back of the cart and draw the canvas flap closed, plunging you into darkness. The cart lurches into motion. You can hear the sounds of the city waking up as you rumble through the streets. You are leaving Rome, the city of your birth, the city that has been your entire world, is fading away behind you. You feel a profound, aching sense of loss, not just for your home, but for the girl you used to be. The girl who saw her reflection in a bucket of water and was filled with a nameless dread. She was so naive. She had no idea how much worse things could get. The journey to the port of Ostia takes several hours. When the cart finally stops and the flap is opened, you are assaulted by the smell of salted fish and the sound of seagulls and shouting sailors. You are hustled from the cart onto a bustling dock. The harbor is a forest of masts. Ships from every corner of the Mediterranean are moored here, loading and unloading goods. Your new owner is waiting for you. He is not a Roman. He is a Greek merchant, the agent for Cassius's friend in Alexandria. He is a short, balding man with shrewd, intelligent eyes. He inspects you briefly, more like a customs officer checking a manifest than a man examining a human being. He looks at the brand on your arm, a small, subtle mark that Lentulus S-man had placed there, signifying you as sold property. He nods, satisfied. He speaks to you in heavily accented Latin. You will come with me. You will not cause trouble. He leads you up the gangplank of a large merchant ship. The deck is a chaos of sailors securing cargo and preparing to set sail. You are taken below deck to a small, cramped area reserved for passengers of low-status and human cargo. You are not chained, but you are placed in a small, windowless cabin with 3 other women, all of them looking as terrified and bewildered as you feel. One is a fiery-haired girl from Gaul, another a dark-skinned woman from Nubia, the third a pale, frightened girl from Britannia. You are all exotic imports, destined for the markets of Alexandria. You sit on a rough wooden bench, the movement of the ship a gentle rocking beneath you. You are all strangers, with no shared language or history, but you are united by a common fate. The fiery-haired Gaul is weeping silently. The woman from Nubia stares ahead, her face a mask of stoic resignation. You look at them, and you see your own story reflected in their eyes. You are all just girls who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Girls whose lives were forfeit to the ambitions and desires of powerful men. There is a long-standing debate among historians about the very nature of Roman identity. Was it based on citizenship, on language, on geography, or was it, for the vast majority of people, simply a question of power? Were you a person who owned, or a person who was owned? As the ship gives a great lurch and begins to move, pulling away from the shores of Italy, you feel like you know the answer. Your citizenship, your language, your birthright, it all meant nothing. You were property. You feel a hand on your arm. It's the woman from Nubia. She doesn't speak, but she offers you a small piece of dried fruit from a pouch at her belt. You take it, and your fingers brush against hers. It's a small, human connection in a vast, inhuman system. A fleeting moment of shared grace. You have found a new kitchen, a new Cleo, the new temporary ally in this new, terrifying world. The ship heads out to the open sea, and for the first time in a long, long time, you don't know what will happen next. And in that uncertainty, there is a strange, terrifying, and microscopic sliver of something that feels almost like hope. The days at sea bleed into one another, a monotonous cycle of gray dawns, stifling afternoons in the hold, and starless, cloudy nights. The world has shrunk to the cramped, foul-smelling space you share with the other women. The air is thick with the odors of unwashed bodies, seasoned scarce, and despair. The constant creaking of the ship's timbers is the only lullaby. The slap of waves against the hull the only clock. You learn the rhythms of your fellow captives, the quiet, constant weeping of the girl from Britannia, the defiant, angry muttering of the gull, the deep, stoic silence of the woman from Nubia, whose name you learn is Subare. You communicate in a broken language of gestures and single words of Latin, a common tongue forced upon you all. You learn that the British girl was captured in a raid, the girl sold by her family to pay a tax debt, Subare taken from her village by slave traders. Your stories are all different, yet they are all the same. You are all victims of an empire that consumes lives as fuel. One night, the sea is unusually calm and the sky is clear. The air in the hold is suffocating, thicker and more unbearable than usual. You can't breathe. You feel a desperate, primal need for open space, for fresh air. Waiting until the guard who watches your section of the hold is dozing, his head slumped on his chest. You rise silently. Suber has eyes open in the darkness. She watches you, but says nothing. She gives a single, slow nod, an acknowledgement of your desperate need. In act of trust, you slip past the sleeping guard and up the narrow ladder that leads to the main deck. The cool night air is a shock. The blessing. It feels like taking your first breath after nearly drowning. You stand for a moment, letting the salt spray kiss your face, cleansing away the stench of the hold. The deck is deserted, save for a single sailor at the tiller. A distant, silent silhouette. The rest of the crew is asleep. The ship glides through the water, a silent black shape on a sea of liquid silver. Above you, the sky is a vast, terrifying expanse of stars. More stars than you have ever seen in your life. There are no city lights here to dim their brilliance, and hanging in the center of it all is a full moon, so bright it casts soft shadows on the deck. This is your new garden, not a small, walled space in a city mansion, but a vast, open, and terrifyingly empty wilderness of water and sky. There are no walls here to protect you, but there are also no walls to imprison you. For the first time since you left your father's apartment, you feel a sense of profound, frightening freedom. You are utterly, completely alone, adrift between two worlds, belonging to neither. This was the reality of the Mare Nostrum, or sea, as the Romans called it. For them, it was a highway of commerce and conquest. For you, it is a void. Sea travel in the ancient world was fraught with peril. Storms could appear with little warning, splintering ships and sending everyone to a watery grave. Pirates still roamed the less patrolled routes, preying on merchant vessels. You have been saved from the gilded cage of Rome only to be placed in a wooden box and sent across a dangerous, unpredictable wilderness. You walk to the edge of the ship and look down at the dark water rushing past. The moonlight glitters on the waves, a mesmerizing, hypnotic dance of light. What now? What awaits you in Alexandria? A new master. A new mistress. A new version of the same gilded cage. Or something worse, you have no illusions. Your face, which has been the source of all your troubles, will still be your most prominent feature. It will still be your primary currency in the market of human lives. And here, historians who study the lives of the enslaved are left with a profound silence. The official records, the sales receipts, the legal texts, the master's letters tell us nothing of the inner world of the people being bought and sold. Did they manage to hold on to their past identities, or did they adapt, creating new personas to survive new realities? How did they cope with the trauma of displacement, the constant threat of violence? It is a question that history, with its focus on the powerful, has left largely unanswered. You are living that unanswered question. You are no longer Lucius's daughter. You are not really Lyra, the handmaiden. You are a nameless girl on a ship in the middle of the sea. All your old identities have been washed away. You look at your hands, resting on the rough, salt-stiffened wood of the railing. They are no longer the soft, oiled hands of Medeia's servant. They are chapped and calloused from the rough work on the ship you were sometimes forced to do. You touch the cheap, coarse fabric of your tunic, the only garment you owned. You are being stripped down to your most essential self. You lean over the side, looking for your reflection in the black water. But the sea is too dark, too fast. All you can see is the shattered light of the moon. You are without a reflection. You are invisible in a way you never managed to be in wrong. A shout from the helmsman breaks the spell. He has seen you. You are not supposed to be here. You quickly turn and slip back towards the ladder, your heart pounding once more. You descend back into the darkness of the hold, back to the smell of despair. But something inside you has shifted. The moonlight, the vastness of the sea, the clean, salt air. It has cleared your head. The fear is still there, a cold, hard stone in your gut. But it is no longer the panicked, helpless fear of a trapped animal. It is the watchful, wary fear of a survivor. Rome is behind you. Medea and Cassius are ghosts in a life that is over. Whatever comes next, you will face it not as a frightened mouse, but as a girl who has walked through fire and learned how to breathe in the smoke. The ship arrives in Alexandria. The moment you step off the gangplank, you know you are in a different world. The port is a chaotic symphony of languages: Greek, Egyptian, Latin, and a dozen others you don't recognize. The air is thick with the scent of exotic spices, baking bread, and the muddy, fertile smell of the Nile. The sun is hotter, the light more intense, the colors more vibrant than anything you have ever seen in Rome. You and the other women are herded through the crowded streets, a small, sad procession of human chattel. The people here are a dizzying mix of races and cultures. Greek soldiers, Egyptian priests with shaved heads, Roman officials in their white togas, Nubian traders with ebony skin. It's a city where the entire world seems to have converged. In Rome, you stood out. Here, your particular look, your Romanness, is just one more flavor in a vast, cosmopolitan stew. It's a strange and disorienting feeling. You are taken to a slave market, a large, open-air courtyard where men and women are displayed on wooden platforms. It is a place of profound human misery, but it is also a place of business, conducted with a brisk, unemotional efficiency. You are cleaned, oiled, and given a new, clean tunic. Your value as a commodity is being polished for display. You are placed on a platform with the Gaulish girl. The British girl and Subaru are taken to a different section. For those destined for harder labor, you never see them again. You and the Gaul, with your lighter features, are designated for domestic service. You are luxury goods. You stand there for hours under the hot Egyptian sun, enduring the stares and prods of potential buyers. It is a repetition of the humiliation you suffered with the steward in Rome, but this time it is public, impersonal, and relentless. You retreat into yourself, to that blank, empty space in your mind that has become your only refuge. Finally, you are sold. Your new master is a wealthy Greek grain merchant named Demetrios. He is a portly, middle-aged man with kind, but weary eyes. He doesn't haggle. He pays the price, signs the tablet, and leads you away from the market. Your story in Alexandria is about to begin. His home is not a Roman domus, but a large, elegant Greek-style villa, built around a cool, shaded central courtyard filled with palm trees and flowering vines. The atmosphere is different from the house of Cassius. It is less formal, less rigid, but still buzzing with the quiet efficiency of a well-run household. You are handed over to the chief housekeeper, a stern but fair Egyptian woman named Isis. And here, your life takes an unexpected turn. You are not assigned as a personal handmaiden. Demetrios' wife is an elderly, frail woman who spends most of her days in her rooms, attended by older, familiar servants. There is no young, jealous domina here. Instead, because you are Roman and can read and write basic Latin, a skill your father taught you, a skill you never thought would have any value, you are assigned to the master's library. Your job is to help the old Greek scribe who manages Demetrios' accounts and correspondence. Your duties are to clean the delicate papyrus scrolls, mix the ink, and copy shipping manifests. It is quiet, solitary work. The scribe is a taciturn old man who is interested only in his scrolls and his numbers. He barely speaks to you, but he is not cruel. He simply expects you to do your work correctly. Your life becomes a routine of ink and papers, of silence and concentration. You spend your days in the cool, quiet library, the scent of old scrolls replacing the cloying perfumes of Dumidia's chambers. The work is tedious, but it is peaceful. No one looks at you. No one touches you. Your beauty, for the first time in your life, is irrelevant. Your ability to form the letters of the Latin alphabet is more valuable than the shape of your face. One afternoon, you are in the courtyard, washing ink from your hands at a small fountain. You catch your reflection in the still water. It's the first time you have truly looked at yourself since you left Rome. The face that stares back at you is thinner, older. The frightened mouse is gone. The hollowed-out ghost is gone. There are new lines around your eyes, lines of weariness and sorrow, but your expression is calm. The unibrow your father used to tease you about is still there. For the first time, you look at it and you don't feel a flicker of shame or worry. It is just a part of you. You are still a slave. You are still property. Your freedom is a distant, perhaps impossible, dream, but the constant, grinding terror is gone. The daily battle for survival has been replaced by a quiet, predictable servitude. You have found a strange kind of peace, not in a garden, but in a library, not in being invisible, but in being useful for something other than your looks. The great historical debate about beauty as a curse for the non-elite woman of the ancient world is, for you, no longer a debate. It was your reality. It leads you through a personal hell of exploitation and abuse. It stripped you of your name, your family, and your home. But, in a strange, cruel twist of fate, it also leads you here. It leads you to a place where your face finally, blessedly, does not matter. You look down at your hands. The small, thin scar from Dumidia's hairpin is still there, a pale white line against your skin. It is a reminder of everything you endured, a reminder of the price you paid. You are the survivor. Your story is not over. It is just a new chapter, written in a new city, in a new language, and for the first time, you feel you might have the strength to read it. The sun sets over Alexandria, casting wan, gentle shadows across the courtyard. The heat of the day begins to fade, replaced by a soft, warm breeze that carries the scent of night-blooming jasmine from the garden. You finish your work in the library, carefully rolling the last scroll and placing it back in its designated cubby. The old scribe has already left, and the house is settling into the quiet rhythm of evening. You are, for a moment, completely alone, and the silence is a comfort, not a threat. You walk out into the open-air peristyle, the central courtyard of the villa, and look up at the sky. The first stars are beginning to appear, pinpricks of faint light in the deep violet canvas of the twilight sky. They are the same stars you saw from the deck of the ship, the same stars that once looked down on Rome. But here, they seem different, calmer, less indifferent. Perhaps, you think, they are just stars, and it is you who has changed. You are no longer looking at them with the eyes of a frightened girl, but with the weary gaze of a woman who has traveled a great distance, both across the sea and within herself. The journey has scarred you, has taken things from you that can never be recovered, but it has also forged something new in you, a quiet resilience, a core of strength you never knew you possessed. You are no longer just a reflection in the water. You are the deep, still water itself.